Hey everybody, welcome to Fatso Radio. How you doing? All right, what's going on? Episode number 94. Welcome to Fatso Radio. My name is Carlo Volpe, and I come to you every Friday night. And again, it's my pleasure to come to you every Friday night to bring you what I have in mind, a day in my experience, stories from my experience along the whole journey of fat loss. But not only that, just discussions and thoughts and ideas from people all over the world. Tonight, no different. I talk to you and I bring you a chat that I had a couple days ago with a good buddy of mine, Desmond Silva, from way back when in high school. Desmond's a great guy. We chat. We talk about family. We talk about community. We talk about politics. We talk about Canadian politics, U.S. politics. We talk about everything. He's a great guy, and he comes to you right from the heart. So please put your hands together for Desmond Silva. Folks, don't forget, our podcast is sponsored by Volpe Martial Arts. Tonight and every night is sponsored by Volpe Martial Arts. Don't forget to check them out, volpemartialarts.com, for more details. It's KW's hottest, newest Kung Fu and Hapkido martial arts school in the region. That's right. Sifu Adam Volpe, my brother, brings you his lifelong passion right to your door, right to his door. Come check him out, volpemartialarts.com. All right, folks, take it away, Lily.
Fatso, the really great podcast show.
Fatso, our very first podcast show. Hey everybody, welcome to Fatso Radio, episode number 94. And tonight, another special guest, longtime friend, Desmond. Desmond, welcome back, my friend.
Thanks, Carlo.
I gotta see your last name, Desmond Silva. Make sure that we'll make you famous.
My name's already famous, by the way. There's a Sri Lankan singer in Sri Lanka with the exact same name.
Really? Okay.
Yep, he's called Desmond Silva.
How's your voice? Are you a good singer?
Apparently, my father and mother think I sing very well. I've been in the church choir and all that, so hey, the friends and neighbors think my sing well.
Let's be honest. The church choir will take anybody, Desmond. Just kidding. I couldn't make the church choir, so I'm just still bitter from St. Gerard Magella and the Pea Patch.
Oh yeah, I don't. You never. You probably were in. I think it was when I was in high school, like last year in high school when I was in university. That's when I was in the church choir at St. Gerard Magella.
Nice.
So yeah, at the church choir, I was the what do you call it? The cantor.
The cantor. What's that exactly?
The guy who says, the guy who's like, let us pray to the Lord.
Yeah.
That type of guy.
Right? That made your parents proud. That must have made your parents proud.
Oh, they were very happy.
I always want, I was never an altar boy, but I always wanted to do the ring the bells. Old school. Yeah. We used to go to two churches, right? We used to go to St. Gerard Magella because I went to St. Bernadette. And then we used to also go to Mount Carmel downtown. Because it was the Italian church, right? So we kind of went to both. But anyway, it's not an episode about religion, but we can talk about religion. Thanks so much for coming back, Des. It's probably been a few months since your last time on. But I want to talk about the same sort of stuff, right? I want to talk about COVID because we're still living in COVID. I want to talk about politics.
Yep.
We'll talk about all these things and where we're going as a country, where we've been as well. Kind of give everybody a little recap. But to start out, how are you? How's the family?
I'm doing okay. Can't complain. The missus is okay. The son's okay. He's healthy.
Good.
He's working from home, and given the circumstances, that's basically having my father go completely nuts right now, given his age. We're lucky enough that's the case. My brother-in-law actually, I'm not going to mention where he works, but
sure.
They actually had one person catch COVID at his office. So there was actually. To be careful about that. So
precautions and everything.
He's a new dad, so
definitely want to be careful.
Exactly, I'm a new uncle. So.
Yes, well, congratulations. Yeah,
thank you.
But yeah, you're adjusting fine. We're adapting. Like you said, one of the things about humans, we're the master, adapting species. We can literally adapt to anything. And like you said, your job's always been remote, or last few years has been pretty much remote, right?
Pretty much.
And that makes it easy. And you've decided to do the kind of the home route for your son. Good. And that's working out well?
That's working out well.
Good.
Like
good to hear.
If I have something that I'm busy with at at home that I can't really go out and tend to my son, then I'll leave him with his grandma and grandpa. Sure. Right. The missus, I have to drive her to work anyways.
Yeah.
So and my parents live on the middle in the center of the city where we're out on the east end.
Okay.
So it's on the way. So I dropped my wife off on the way and drop my son off there and then head back home. Good. So then in the evening, it's the same route back again.
Yes. Well, it's good. It's convenient to have your parents there, right?
Oh yeah, big help.
That's nice.
So my sister's there too. So,
That's
yeah.
nice. Okay. Well, that's good. Everybody's there. That's good. Well, yeah, you're all in Ottawa. Nice. So, and that's the thing too. It's nice to hear that, the remote path is working well for you, right? We chose to send our two girls to school and it's working well as well. We're lucky that, we haven't had any scares or stuff like that, but I don't know, it's one of those things that like, along with adapting, but we still kind of have that in the back of our mind, right? Be healthy, be safe. And I always kind of say the same thing, right? The formula to be healthy today is the same as it always been, right? We just kind of have to remind ourselves. It's harder in the winter, it's harder in the fall to get outside and get sunlight, but that's so important, right? It's kind of underestimated, I think, how important sunlight is. We evolved under the sun, literally. I mean, just take a look at half of our population is darker than me. So obviously we evolved under the sun. In fact, you need more sun than I do, right?
My father's giving us vitamin D pills.
Good. And take even 15 minutes, 10 minutes outside the house every day is great. Even on your face only, or get your hands or whatever it is. But it helps. It really needs that vitamin D, and it's even better than the synthetic, of course, but any kind is better than nothing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then just fresh air and all that stuff. So it's good to see that you guys are doing good. Like you said, we're doing well as well. Let's get right into it. U.S. politics or Canadian politics first?
Let's go to U.S. and then we'll transition over to back home.
Absolutely. U.S.
Because I think a lot of people are talking about what's going down in the States right now.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I mean, it's funny because, not funny, but we all expected some sort of a hoopla, right? We all expected some sort of a contested result, and it's still going on. I mean, I think they have, the last I checked, I think the states have until December 14th to actually ratify or to make
something like that. They officially inaugurate them, and I think the inauguration was officially in
January 20th.
Yeah, in January.
Yeah.
So
it takes some time.
It takes some time. Like Al Gore was essentially president-elect for about 37 days.
Yeah, and then Bush won through the courts.
Won through the courts, and then
people forget that.
Yeah,
I think people forget that, especially Canadians. We forget that it's not. This isn't the first one.
Oh no, it's been I think the very first contested presidency was soon after the Civil War.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was the very first time that they had that. Is after the Civil War, when they wanted to decide who was going to be the president. Yeah. Either was the guy from the Confederate side, or was it the guy from the Union side? So that was also an issue that was there. So it's been happening ever since.
And how ironic is that it's in a situation, in a climate of complete division, and we can feel completely divided today, right, as a country, right? And I think it's partially the political problem that's kept us divided, or is making people divided, right? Blue, red,
Yeah, exactly. In our case, blue-red is just reversed, but that's pretty much the same idea.
And we're following. It seems like we're becoming more like them over time. We used to be able to have a little bit of pride in our multi-party system, or at least a three-party. I don't know. Some people call it a three-party system, but I don't know. What do you think about that too? Is it even?
Well, I think that the as far as the NDP is concerned, it's going to be very, very hard for them to have an NDP prime minister, right?
Yeah,
I could see them having of course, NDP premier, yes. Mm-hmm. At the federal level, not so much.
Not yet.
The Greens, they're fairly young, and I think they're not. It's going to take some time to get up there because, essentially, the Greens are almost like the Liberals with a sort of political, with an environmental side to them. That's about it.
I think I think maybe a harsh reality is that they just need a shitload of money behind them, right? Eventually they need a lot of money, some kind of big business behind them. But what big business is involved with, or sorry, what big business has green as their number one right now? It's
Tesla.
Tesla Canada, right?
We had Tesla Canada, that'll be there. Oh, there's that I forgot the name of that other electric car company that Trudeau is trying to boost up, right?
Really?
So that's
I like the idea of green. I like the idea of what they go for and stand for, right? It's all about what's their depth, right? I guess, of their policies and everything. But not only that, it's just sometimes it's just a matter of getting enough people on board. If you convince enough of the political leaders or political pundits from the liberal side or the conservative side, for some reason, usually it's money, it's usually the media, right? We've just experienced what happened in the US, where the media completely, as far as I'm concerned, the media completely dictated the outcome.
Oh, they did.
And they completely manipulated and basically, influenced,
They were even Facebook was censoring
Twitter. Oh, brutal.
Facebook and Twitter. Here you had people like Joe Rogan or Tim Pool, who's not even conservative. Tim Pool's a liberal. Okay?
Even Joe Rogan, he gets
liberal.
labeled a conservative, but he's actually a liberal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the thing is, these guys are liberal, but the thing is, they're moderate liberals.
They're so far center. Yeah.
They're very, very, very center, right? So, and here's the thing I consider myself a moderate as well. And the thing is, one thing about moderates is that they're able to see both sides of the story, and then you can actually see, okay, this is good from this side, this is good from that side, and this is the bad from this side, this is the bad from that side, and be able to come up with pretty much a holistic view that is actually the best of both worlds and actually is correct.
Yeah.
The moment that you go to any extreme on either side, you get bad stuff. I mean, the thing is, people go around saying, "Oh, far right wingers are racist." Well, guess what? Far lefties are just as racist, because I've seen. If you see what's going on with the far left right now, they're trying in the down south. Amongst of all things, Black Lives Matter. There are people amongst Black Lives Matter who are trying to reintroduce segregation.
Oh my God.
Racial segregation. I kid you not.
That's crazy.
At Black Lives Matter movements, that you have this lady, a white lady. This is the funny thing about Black Lives Matter down south. Okay, Black Lives Matter down south. You got like 4 or 5 black folks, okay, with the megaphones, and all behind them is a whole bunch of white liberals.
Yeah, it's so hard to understand what's actually going on, right? Because at the face value, I would say Black Lives Matter. Okay, no one can agree with that. So no one can disagree with that, right? It makes complete sense. But then when you dig a little bit further, you're thinking, well, who's involved with this, and what are they actually preaching, or what are they saying?
Exactly.
And then it's like, where's the money coming from? And then wait a second, I don't really know what's going on. It's fishy, right?
Yeah, it is.
Especially when I'm not here to argue the all Black Lives Matter versus all lives matter slogan.
Yeah.
What about if all lives matter was started to being said and Black Lives Matter said, okay, yeah, I agree. And we all started saying both chants. You know what I mean? I think that's the more welcoming, the more unified way.
Exactly. And that's what helped Martin Luther King Jr. to win the civil rights movement.
Oh yeah. I mean, he was like that, right?
he's the architect that the Afro community should be following more than anybody else. But at the same time, there are some things from for the positive side, you should be listening to Martin Luther King. For the methods you should be using, listen to Martin Luther King Jr., right? Just get to listen to the good Reverend, right? And then the next thing, but for the cynical side, listen to Malcolm X. Okay. Because Malcolm X, and he says this straight, and the thing he said, and he basically said, it says, you get basically saying that I can trust a racist conservative. I can trust the white conservative more than the white liberal, because the white conservative will tell me if he's racist.
Yeah, he shows his true colors, right?
He shows his true colors. He's like a wolf, right? He's like a wolf. He'll come straight at you, right?
Yeah.
Well, the white liberal is like a fox.
Yeah.
He'll curl up his mouth in such a way that even though he's burying his teeth at you, he still looks like he's smiling.
Yeah.
He'll pretend to be your friend.
Yeah.
Pretend to be your friend.
And perfect example is if they're being attacked right now, the far left, for jumping on movements, that's a perfect example. Jump on a movement, a wolf in sheep's clothing, or whatever you want to, right? A fox is looking differently, and that's what any type of movement is. And I think any type of, and that's what happens, I think, not to shit on the far left, but to shit on any extreme group, right? That jumps on a current cause. And I think that's the gay rights. I believe in gay rights. Transgender rights. I believe in sexuality rights and everything. But I don't believe in jumping on that movement to gain political ground. Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's what happened with Democrats, right, in the U.S. To get back to the U.S. politics is, I often hear Trump's a bad guy, so I can't vote for him. Okay. Do you know anything about Biden? Do you know anything about
oh my God,
politics? Biden. I know it's weird.
If you ever looked at Biden's track record, at his history, the guy historically is a known liar, a known racist. Okay, the guy he already has certain type of people. He's already been accused, mind you.
Yeah.
Not charged, accused
Yeah.
of sexual assault, right?
Yeah. And then all
Whether
the
or not
corruption, accusations of corruption.
there are actually corruption. He was a hard supporter of segregation, of racial segregation.
He brought up a very, very strong crime bill, didn't he?
He did.
He's like he was hard against minorities, if I recall.
It was very hard amongst minorities, and the results. I saw a document. Yeah, I saw a documentary on the thing, and that it would affect anybody who is a lower income.
Yeah. See, this is my problem with guys like Biden that are politicians that have been in politics their whole life, but have been on the wrong side, maybe, or is that I still think he's worse than Trump because although Trump hasn't been in politics, right? He hasn't favored bad bills. Like, let's be honest, right? Like he hasn't been spending a lifetime of getting money, fundraising money to promote bad bills or to be on. I don't know. And it's almost like because he's not a politician, like we said kind of before the show started.
Exactly.
Because he's not a politician, he really did expose the corruption. Now, don't get me wrong, he brings his own corruption in, right? Like he brings his own minions or, whatever. But
he has a hard time losing. That's the thing.
Yeah.
He's a very sore loser and he admits it. But here's the thing, he admits it.
Yeah.
He says it's hard to lose, especially for me.
Yeah.
He said that, right?
Yeah.
So it's not that he's dishonest about that. He's honest about that. But the thing is, if you ever talk to him about his former bankruptcies, he'll say that they never happened.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. So that's the thing is that
well, he's no saint. He's no saint.
He's no saint.
Yeah.
No one's ever saying that he's a saint.
Yeah. And it's funny. I had an interesting.
But he's better than he's better than the other option.
Yeah.
Which is essentially a xenophobe. Yeah. Who a xenophobe and someone who basically puts down bad policies. The people go around saying, Trump put kids in cages. Who do you think made the cages?
Yeah, it was the Obama administration, right?
It was under Obama, even before Obama, if I remember correctly. It was Joe Biden's legislation that put that there. Before Trump talked about putting up the whole Trump wall scenario.
Yeah,
Biden was already talking about putting up a border fence.
I know, and almost. It's because Trump is so divisive, right? Because people hate him so much that he literally gets blamed for anything.
I don't think it's that more than Trump being divisive. That's not Trump being divisive. It's actually, Trump not even being boorish.
Yeah, it's right. Exactly. He's actually not divisive, but him being boorish hits people as divisive. It makes people feel divided. I don't know why, but
it's just the way he talks. Not pompous. He talks like he's on The Apprentice.
Yeah.
Look at how he talks on The Apprentice. Then look how he talks every day. That's Trump.
Yeah, he's being the boss. He's being
the boss.
Yeah.
But the thing is, he's been planning this. He's been trying to show that with The Apprentice and all that, to show that he can be a boss.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, too, is that a lot of people are starting to realize that his policies were actually quite good, right? And people still won't vote for him. Even though they agree his policies are good, because he's not presidential. And it's funny, me and my brother even had a discussion about this, kind of a debate the other day about it. And around the value, I don't really value his presidentialness that much as much as other people do. However, I do understand there's a value in it, right? You can't be a complete jackass, which he is oftentimes a complete jackass.
No,
so how do you rein that in, right? Like,
well, then so does Biden sometimes.
Oh, I mean, like I said, and that's why at the end of the discussion with my brother, I was like, even though, like, at what point do you have to choose policy over personality, right?
Yeah, and that's important because here's what I wanted to get another thing. Kamala Harris.
Yes.
Okay? Kamala Harris. Very
well
clean,
liked, right?
Very clean cut, very nice looking lady, right? Career politician through and through.
Yeah. Well, a ruthless lawyer, isn't he?
Huh?
She was a ruthless lawyer, wasn't she?
She is. Oh, she was a prosecutor.
Yes.
Right. And she used to give like really harsh terms for minor offenses.
Wow.
Right. She was like very ruthless in that term, like, and so. She's
but she looks, it's a perfect picture right now, especially with today's climate.
Because she knows how to talk. She knows how to talk. She's a politician. She's a very good career politician, and when I say she's a very good career politician, that's not a good thing.
No, it's we don't want a politician. That's one of the reasons why I like Trump, because he wasn't.
Yeah, exactly. Because I don't care what her ethnicity is or her background is or her gender is. She's an elitist. Whether you like it or not. Like, she came from humble roots, built herself up. Right now, she's an elitist.
Wow.
Because she talks like one. You walk like an elitist. You talk like an elitist. You're an elitist.
Yeah.
Okay? So, and the thing is, I was thinking she was affected by Biden's policies on anti-busing and all that stuff.
Wow.
She called him out for that during the Democratic candidates debates, right?
Okay.
And here's the funny thing. This is what I mean that she's a career you're a career politician when you do this, is that she lost the Democratic debates.
Okay.
And then was brought on as Joe Biden's running mate.
Yes.
Then she starts calling him the best thing since sliced bread.
Well, she was, if I remember correctly, during the primary, she was polling the lowest percentage, or among the lowest percentages.
And at the same time, though, she was like, figuratively speaking, just bashing Biden's teeth out in the debates.
That's great. So you start out by being the lowest on the polls, to now you're going to be the running mate.
Exactly.
So
and the thing is, I don't know about
for metrics or just for political.
She wasn't the front runner, right? Now, but the thing is, there was a time where she was seemingly going to be the front runner, but then started to back off a bit. Like she was reasonable, but the thing is that she doesn't have a very good. If you do a flip flop, in my books, that's bad. That's a bad sign.
Yeah.
That Paul Martin did it. Paul Martin did it. He was a horrible prime minister. Okay. Jean Chrétien never did it. He was liberal. I'm fine with Jean Chrétien because Jean Chrétien was a strong leader.
I like people who stick to their guns as far as their ethics. I mean, obviously you need to grow and you need to expand your horizons and your opinions, but you can't flip flop. No. Major.
You can't flip flop. Hillary Clinton flip flop. Flip flop. Okay.
Well, and the other thing that bothers me with the whole Kamala Harris is it Kamala? I don't know how to say it.
Kamala Harris.
I think I see her name. I think the Kamala. Remember the wrestler?
Yeah.
Well, his last name was Harris too. James Harris, believe it or not.
What, seriously?
Yeah.
Wow.
Weird.
Okay, I didn't know that.
But the thing that bothers me is that because I feel, so I'm going to say how I feel. Now, I'm not going to take away anything away from her, from a racial, a sexual thing, but it's almost like it's perfect timing to be ultra fake, to be ultra placate to the whole society of this ultra left, to have a woman, obviously, right, and a minority, but at the same time, I'm saying that I don't want to take away the fact that she's obviously, credentials, she's obviously qualified, but the fact that she's qualified almost takes away from her. I don't like qualified politicians, to your point, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Her qualifications is the fact that she is a politician.
That's exactly. And the thing is, there are one or two political science majors who I know are going into politics, and I know that they can really BS. Big time.
Well, yeah.
They're trained to BS, and I don't like it. Like my background's engineering. Yeah. Okay, engineering. We go by be honest, be truthful, and also the thing is, KISS, KISS.
Yeah, keep
it simple, stupid.
Exactly, and that's good words to live by on any kind of realm.
Exactly. Yeah. But they overcomplicate things. Oh, one thing about Harris also, she's also is one of her advisors is actually a lady by the name who used to go by the name of Lakshmi Rohini Ravindra. Okay. Right now, I think she now goes by what was her name? She goes by Rohini Kosoglu now after her marriage. Okay. This woman has this is something that affects my background because my country of my wife, Sri Lanka. Okay. Because this lady Rohini is actually her family has ties to the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam, or LTTE, otherwise known as the Tamil Tigers.
Wow.
These are the guys who were who were fighting against the Sri Lankan government in the civil war that lasted about 30 years.
Oh my God.
Just to give you an idea, their female soldiers are seen as the most fearsome female soldiers in the world.
Wow.
Every single one of them carries a cyanide tablet around their neck. If you get caught, you take the cyanide tablet.
Oh, that's no messing around.
That
Jeez.
and
So
these
they're not a
guys,
terrorist group or no? Like at
they
least special
they
forces?
were on when they were still they were still having any form of power at all, or any before they were taken down.
Okay.
They were on the United States top 10. Sorry, on the US, the FBI's top 10 most wanted terrorist groups.
Wow. Okay.
These are the guys that Al Qaeda mimicked.
Jeez. So
The,
what's this? She has an association to them or some past?
her family is connected to them.
Wow.
Her family has connections to the Tamil Tigers. I think her grandmother, some of her other family relatives, were in the Tamil Tigers.
Wow.
So now this is one of Kamala Harris's advisors.
Wow.
So that if Kamala Harris becomes the VP, well, guess what? Sri Lanka is in trouble.
Yeah.
Here comes another war. Because the USA, all she has to do is whisper in freaking Biden's ears. Biden doesn't know squat.
Yeah.
Right? Biden can't even talk without a freaking teleprompter or without rehearsed answers.
Well, and it's funny that I always thought kind of growing up that it was the conservative Republican Party that liked to go to wars. But over the last couple of decades, man, I got to tell you, the Democrats seem to be the war hawks.
They were. And
Like
Trump has been doing everything anti-war.
Kind of trying to stop the wars, it seems like. But, and like, it almost seems as well as that the U.S. is kind of, not by the people, of course, but the government has set itself up for the next war with Iran. I hate to say that, but like, I don't know. I mean, it seems like things are getting, I don't know.
Oh, you're talking about because Trump took out what's that? What the Gaffey?
Well, that
Gaffey?
no. I don't know that his name, but I mean, just like it seems like there's the shift of power. You know what I mean? Like after the whole Iraq, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with the Middle East right now, but it seems like ISIS is gone. What happened there? I guess they defeated them. Did Trump take credit for that?
I think he did. Yeah, I think they did get rid of ISIS finally. Yeah. Oh yeah, they did.
So
Trump's military put down ISIS.
Yeah. Okay, so let's put ISIS down. So let's get back to the U.S. politics. So then, I guess they still have another month or so to figure out if the states are going to win. You know, if the states are going to ratify or where they go with that, and then the inauguration's in January. So historically, it's not out of the question to be fought out in court. So it could still happen, right?
Yeah, the election has not been certified.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So it's more on the division. It's like the media. You know, I had to talk about that for a minute. The media has been so detrimental in the poisons, I think, over the last couple months, over the last year, even with this whole COVID thing, is that, you know, fear. We've always been hearing this from 1994. All the stories on the warnings. You know, you suppress the people, you get them afraid. You can put down policies. You can put down, you know. And it seems like it's just more and more fear, and it's more and more this it's like everybody afraid. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Where I'm going.
Yeah,
with
just
that.
look at I mean, just look at that cartoon I showed you earlier.
Yeah.
Right. Freedom Tunes. Title of the cartoon. For anyone's watching, look up Freedom Tunes. The title of the cartoon is Leftism Then and Now.
Yeah.
And it shows all the talking points that conservatives had in the past. So if you do this, this is what's going to happen. Yeah. And liberals, like kids, just completely disregarded what their parents are telling them and going off and saying, and yeah, I'm going to say it. The liberals have been looking like kids in a way, because except for those who actually knew what they're doing and knew what the consequence of their actions were going to be, and they wanted it to go that way. All the rest who just blindly followed them because of progress didn't look at where the hell they were progressing in the first place. Yeah, no, it's true. It's like there's a handful of people who know, and that's the sinister part of it. And it's actually quite evil, right, in the left. But most people that are still in the left that have found themselves maybe going far left without even knowing it, you're right. I feel bad for them, like children, like we don't know because like we're uneducated, and like the idea of like we never thought, just to that video, if people look at it, we never thought it's going to get that bad. You know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, they said, hey, if you don't like this group, you're in trouble. Okay, that's fine. I don't like, or I'm not that, you know, use no examples, but to say something like, if you don't support a certain group, that means you're against them. Or before we could understand that, no, it doesn't necessarily mean you're against them. It just means you don't want to necessarily. You don't agree with them. You don't have to agree with people, right? But now it's kind of the difference between tolerance and acceptance is a different story. Exactly. And now it's progressed to the idea where if you're not behind them with a flag of whatever the flag is, whatever it is, whatever a pin is, then you're a bigot. Then you're yeah, and that's the perfect example. Well, it's completely bullshit because
it plays to
knocking
the whole
down free
cancel
thought.
culture, right? It plays to the whole cancel
Exactly.
culture. If you don't like what I have to say, now you're going to destroy my career. No, how about talk about it in a public forum? So if I'm speaking idiotic words, those idiotic words need to be exposed for their idiocy, right?
Yes,
That's exactly what we need to do.
that's exactly it. Right, and that's why freedom of speech is so important. And here's the
So
thing:
important.
Bill Maher. Here's the thing: Bill Maher is a left wing comedian, but he's closer to moderate.
Mhm.
He's moderate. I like this guy. I don't agree with everything he says, but there's a lot of stuff that he says that is good.
Speaks a lot
Let's
of
say
truth.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he speaks a lot of truth in that matter, right? There's some stuff that he says as a comedian that's a little bit, how would I put it, cocky.
Yeah. A
In the
little bit off
sense,
color
like,
too, some of the stuff.
well, it's like he says that, that liberals are more civil than conservatives.
Yeah.
Have you seen the past 4 years?
Yeah, exactly. Those riots aren't civil. Yeah,
No,
exactly.
nah, that's not civil at all.
Yeah.
And then you've got, but the thing is, if you go to, then you have Jordan Peterson.
I like him.
Yeah, if I don't know if you haven't heard of Jordan Peterson, I don't know where you've been for the past 3-4 years, or in 5 years for that matter, but you need to go do some research and look up on Jordan Peterson.
Yeah. Was he a professor out of Ryerson? Is he or?
He's a professor of psychology at Ryerson University.
Yeah.
And he made history with standing up against Canada's. I think it was Bill C-16.
Okay. About the names, pronouns, and all that.
Yeah, it was basically he was making an argument against legalizing compelled speech. That's what it was. Bill C-16 was compelled speech, and he said, "While I don't mind if someone asks me, could you please refer to me as this?" Then I'm like, "Okay, fine."
Yeah.
But,
for example, like a different pronoun than him or her. Yeah.
Exactly. Like say they, right?
Mm-hmm.
Refer to me myself as they.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's fine. I don't mind. But I am not going to, that doesn't mean I have to believe what you believe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't have to agree with you. And I don't have to be compelled by law to say what I don't want to say.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. Which should be something applied across the board. I mean, the extreme LGBT groups right now, the recent laws that they've been trying to have enacted is very, very close to a totalitarian cult type of mentality, because you have, in the Middle East, there are certain countries that have laws against converting a person from Islam to Christianity or to any other religion. Okay, at point of, and you can be imprisoned or even put on, in some cases, put to death. Okay, for those types of cases. Well, what do we have now recently in Alberta and some other provinces, even at the federal state, homosexual conversion therapy, or conversion therapy that allows for the LGBT community to go from that to straight, is being outlawed. Okay, you can try and take someone who's straight.
Conversion therapy is outlawed.
Conversion therapy is outlawed. You can take someone who's straight and turn them the other way, but you can't do it back.
Well, that's so funny because what's
weird.
the argument there? Like, just to be devil's advocate, can you take someone who's straight and turn them gay? I don't know.
Well, it's not about the straight and the gay part. The problem happens is when they're targeting. Here's the thing: is when they start targeting kids. Okay. Yeah. So there are laws that are in there that basically states that kids have better judgment than adults, their own parents. So basically stating that
I would have to disagree. Kids don't know shit.
Yeah, kids don't.
Most adults don't know shit, me included. Like it takes lifetimes to be wise.
And even doctors even say that it takes up to 25 years before your brain stops developing.
Yes, that's true.
Right? Up until 25 years, your brain is developing. That's why when you're up until the age of 25, or heck, even up until sometimes on people until the age of 30, are far more susceptible and far more impressionable.
Yes.
Than people who are over 40.
Of course, and that's the whole idea of teach a child young, right? That's when they learn. It's easier to learn skills, easier to learn languages, for sure.
Because you're learning. It's a double-edged sword.
That's right. And because you're learning, you don't have the judgment to know what's at that point. You're still in the process of learning. Yeah, that's true.
Exactly.
And you're so susceptible. Yeah.
And the problem is they don't know how to say no to these kids.
Yeah.
Right. It's been a build-up of problems that have been happening for the past 20 years or so.
Yeah, we really do. I mean, it brings up a good point in my mind that we really do have to protect the children because on one hand, we're telling them learn, be sponges. And on the other hand, some nefarious people may prey on them and then we expect them to have good judgment. But no, children have to be protected. Absolutely right.
Exactly. Like even when it comes to shows that like Loud House, right? Or that on my TV. Okay. Or even the new Voltron that's on Netflix.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Those shows, I don't think those are suitable for kids under the age of 12.
Really? What kind of topics do they talk about?
Well, there are certain topics that have to do with the LGBT community. And the thing is, I understand that there are kids that have two dads. Right? If that's the case, that's fine.
Sure.
But this is something that should be taught to kids when they're like 15 years old.
Sure. Okay.
After they've gotten into where they want to be. You know what I mean?
And I think where that comes up, it must be an issue where it comes up is that it's introduced to kids much earlier than that these days.
Which is a problem.
But is it a problem? If you have two dads, right?
If you have two dads,
and you're introduced to day one, and then your friends are going to be introduced to it. So just to be, in reality of it, is that the practicality is that even if you're against it, you have to have awareness, right?
Well, you can have awareness, but the thing is, this is something, even when we were young, we gained awareness after puberty. That's the thing. That's the thing.
I wonder why. Was that a planned awareness? Because I don't think we were taught anything about LGBTQ when we were kids. It's just you learn by happenstance, or you learn.
No, you don't remember St. Basil's?
Learning about gay community or anything?
Dude, hey, Luke, how you doing? Luke Baisley. Hey, if he's watching this thing. Luke Baisley was in a skit that was basically targeting violence against homosexuals. Against it. So they were against it. Back at St. Basil's. This is a Catholic school.
Yeah.
They were against violence against homosexuals.
Well, that's good.
Which is good.
Against violence. Okay, I got you.
They were against violence against homosexuals. They were talking about how bad it is.
So we even had that awareness in the 90s?
Yeah, they had it back in the 90s.
That's when it started, I guess. Yeah.
It was fine. Everything was fine. Hunky-dory in the 90s. Yeah.
So you're saying it's more appropriate at that
It was appropriate at that time, at that age, because they're in. First of all, there's a lot of kids who don't really understand why mommy and daddy are there in the first place. Right?
Yeah. A lot of kids don't even explain the whole parenting, sex. Yeah. So
the thing is, most of the kids, and here's the problem I have with, and this is not just for anyone, teaching kids about sex in general, up at grade 3.
Yeah.
No.
You don't like that. I know.
I don't like that at all. Like you want to teach the kids about the proper term for penis and vagina. Okay, that's fine. Yeah. A word is a word. Yeah. My boy, we call it his ding-a-ling.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Right. And he has his ding-a-ling and his cheese balls. So that's about it. But the thing is, you gotta have some sort of level. And he wouldn't even say like dick. He won't even say dick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but do you think that comes from the religious background though, right? Because from a religious perspective, we've kind of been parented.
But the thing is, the religious perspective has its reasons.
Yeah,
there are reasons for it, and there are reasons they say, "Oh, it's old-fashioned. It's
probably to prevent promiscuity. Probably to
prevent promiscuity. Is to prevent all these other problems that would come from the thing with that. Because here's the thing: kids are curious.
Yeah,
kids are curious. And I remember even back in the 80s, how the little boys want to play doctor with the little girls.
Sure, yeah,
right.
It's natural.
And they it's natural. They want to see what is this. Yeah. They wanted to see. Oh my God! I remember when I was a kid, when I was a teenager when we were a teenager back in the zoo.
Yeah,
there were a couple of 12-year-old boys. Okay, like 11 or 12-year-old boys.
Jeez. On
TV. They were watching. We're all at the YMCA, right? I was there for basketball for basketball classes.
Okay.
And lessons, and so on the television. There's this pretty young girl in a scantily clad bikini, right? It's bikini like this, like just enough to cover her nipples and a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
And the other area just enough to cover her crotch and a little bit area of her butt, right?
Got it.
And a nice long hair, very attractive young girl, right?
Okay.
And these kids are going crazy as if they're seeing a Playboy magazine for the first time.
Yeah.
That's a lot for a 12-year-old. Okay.
I know, but what do you?
And
I don't know. Yeah, it's hard. I guess hard to take. I mean, I remember being a 12-year-old boy myself, and I was
yeah,
going crazy too. I don't
you
know.
go crazy over that stuff. And of course, when we get older, we get used to it, and then it's not
Yeah,
such much of a big deal.
yeah.
We still go nuts over it whenever we get the thing, right?
But I
And
mean,
these
at
rules,
one
I think,
point,
are
yeah,
and these rules are not. I don't think they're more for little girls as they are for little boys.
yeah. Well, boys are we're
Is
pretty
to
like
keep
wild by nature, right? More
yeah,
wild.
that's the problem. So it's to
Yeah.
keep the boys in check. We don't have to worry. Here's the thing is, I think one of my I said this last time. One of my friends, Paul, God bless his soul, he had 3 boys. Unfortunately, he left his wife widowed and his boy semi-orphaned.
Sorry.
God bless his soul. He died of during a heart operation.
Wow.
Yeah, poor guy. Paul Gerard. He went to our school. It's high school.
Yeah.
St. Basil's. You probably heard of him, right?
Yeah, I remember. Okay. Oh
Yeah,
my
yeah.
God.
He died not like just a few years back.
Jeez. Wow.
But he told him and his wife were trying to have a daughter, right?
Okay.
And one thing that and you tell me if you can relate to this. One thing that he was doing, while he was preparing the daughter, first thing he did was buy a rifle.
Well, I have 2 guys. I have 2 guys, and I train martial arts. So
Yeah, and the rifle. You know why? So that he says when his daughter comes, if his daughter brings a boy home, he'll bring out the rifle, start polishing the rifle in front of him. Because he says, I says if I have a son, I only have to worry about one dink. I have one dink in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
If I have a girl, I have to worry about every dink in the neighborhood.
I know, I've heard that before. No, it's true.
So,
I understand. But yeah,
even a lot. So most of these restrictions and all that stuff. I mean, women go around talking these days about being sexually liberated and all that. No, you're not sexually liberated. You're being taught to act like boys. Like seriously.
yeah. I don't know what the answer with that is. I think education is the answer, but there's a fine line, right, between education and exploitation, even, right? There's a yeah.
But education can also be used as a form of exploitation. So it depends on how you're being and what you're being educated and how you're being educated.
Yeah, and at what level, at what age, too, right? That's
exactly. And then the people go around saying, "Oh, like the liberals, we're progressive." I'm like, "What are you progressing towards?"
Yeah, exactly. Where's the end game? Because
where's the end game?
If it's more sexualized society, right?
Yeah, I mean, there are people who
I never thought about that. You're right, because if we do become more sexualized over time, it's gonna get bigger. But the law of exponential growth, right? Mm-hmm. The idea, it's gonna get bad. Maybe.
No, the thing is, a lot of people worried about. Liberals need to put on the brakes.
Yeah,
they really need, or someone needs to put the brakes on them.
Well, and that's the thing too. It's like
the only way that we're going to be able to do that is by proper education to make sure what are the consequences of your actions. The problem with the liberal idea of to each his own is flawed. Yeah, because there are consequences to every action that you take, and the only one you're going to end up hurting. Well, not the only one. The primary person you're going to end up hurting is yourself. That's the first one. Yeah. And then secondly, you're going to probably end up hurting somebody else.
Well, what I don't like about the recent vibes from the left, right, especially the far left, is that where's community? Where's the community? Where's the family in all this? It's the absence of community. It's the absence of family. It's like, and I never thought about this.
Only.
That's what I'm saying. It's balance. It's ultimate segregation, or it's ultimate what am I saying? It's like
separation,
categorization, and marginalization. That's what I'm trying to say. We're actually marginalizing everybody. If everybody's a minority, everybody's a special group, then that means nobody's valued. Like I don't know. It's weird.
And no one's allowed to think according. That's the thing. No one's allowed to think critically.
Yeah, I feel like it's pulling away from the true family, the whole tribalness. I mean, of course, tribalness can be a bad thing, right? But there's good things, and that's the community, right?
And in a way, tribalness, I wouldn't really go with tribal mentality. Each person should be allowed to think. Yeah, here's the thing. Each person should be allowed to think independently. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Independent thought, critical, independent.
Critical. You're right.
Objective thought. Yeah. Is what's needed.
Yeah, and we have to be able to have the ability to challenge.
Exactly, and then having community second, right? Or having family is very, very important. We're evolved to have. We're evolved as social creatures, and we're evolved to have families.
Absolutely. One of the things that I feel when I think about family and the lack of family, one of the things that I've starting to think more and more of the older I get, and I a little bit regret this, is that it's it makes sense that when you lose religion, you lose community and family as well. Right.
Exactly.
And I never saw that, be quite honestly, growing up, or not even growing up, but, after high school and university, you start questioning things. And there was a time where I swore I was an atheist, and there's a time I don't know. Turns out I don't know anything anymore, but which none of us do. But I realize now that
we're all learning.
I realize now that what church did and what the synagogue does and what the mosque does is that it reinforces that community and reinforces your family, because you go with your family to the church. You go with your family to the mosque, to the temple, to the synagogue. And so I'm not saying that I feel like we can't have a solution without those churches and mosques and everything, but we need something else then. So if we don't have the churches, right, we need something else. And it's difficult to just, I feel like another church is going to spawn, the church of just,
it's going to take
ambiguity or just kind of anonymous spirituality. And I know that sounds like
it's already happening.
Yeah. Well, the church of ayahuasca, people are drinking these ceremonies, right, and having psychedelic experiences. The church of mushrooms and church of,
church of the left, the church of the far left, like the ones that is like the folks that call themselves left of liberal.
Yeah. Right? What is that?
It's leftist extremism.
Yeah, isn't that end up being communism though?
It's moving towards
worse.
That. No, it's
not
kind of like
communism.
it is based on Marxist type of ideology, right? But it's moving in that direction. It's moving in that direction.
Jeez.
So that's the problem. And but the thing is in the States, the thing is that there in the States where you got with the Republicans and all that stuff, the people who are right wing in the States are really right wing.
Well, at least that's what we see. I know that's a problem too. Is that perception?
Yeah, they're really right wing. The people so the conservatives in the States are really conservative. The liberals in the States are really liberal. The people who are center in the States are really center.
Yeah.
Canada, that's not the case.
Okay.
We're actually more liberal than the liberals in the States.
We're actually more liberal than the U.S. Yeah, you're right.
The USA, we are more liberal than them. That's not a good thing.
No, it's not necessarily a good thing. There were some issues that we used to be sporadically more liberal, and those were okay. Like we used to be more liberal with pot, and then we were super strict with it, and then the States became, and then we caught up again. Like it's so weird.
Yeah. The pot. Like, I don't know about pot and the weed. That's not really the big issues here.
No, not anymore. But we thought it was. When we thought legalizing weed was an issue, we were very centered as a country, and now we're more left, I think.
Yeah, and here's the thing: is that I don't think that legalizing weed or legalizing pot is an issue, because that's just a substance, and here, just like alcohol, right? I mean, like alcohol and smoking, right, and cigarettes. This is something that adults should be able to be educated on, and then probably and have their own control over the usage of that particular substance. Yeah, and that's demonizing that substance is not. It depends on the individual to be able to use it properly and to educate themselves on that. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I honestly do think that anyone before they get to smoking or drinking or weed or whatever should take a course, should have a license saying that they or certification saying that they took a course that they on the effects of alcohol and all these other drugs.
It wouldn't be bad. It wouldn't be a bad idea. Take
the course and basically say, okay, I took this course. I'm of legal age. I understand fully what the effects are, and this is based on complete facts, completely objective.
Yeah.
No left leaning, no right leaning. And to say, okay, if you take this is what's going to happen to you if you use this substance. Okay, take the course. Okay, now you want to take it. You want to take this thing? Okay.
Yeah.
That's your problem.
It's freedom, but with full transparency to make your own decision.
Exactly. And of course, make sure when they're driving, drive sober.
Yeah,
right?
For sure. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's more about us as a people becoming a responsible people. It's like treating your population like adults for once.
Yes.
And the liberal way doesn't treat us like adults.
No, it doesn't. It treats it in a very totalitarian type of mode.
It's big government towards
big government. It's moving towards communism.
Yeah.
And here with Trudeau, it's moving towards communism at almost breakneck speed.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about that. Let's shift over to the Canadian side then. So it seemed like you want to touch earlier, we touched on his dad, right? So Pierre Trudeau. He obviously had name recognition, right? The Trudeau name, when he ran on a couple things like legalizing marijuana, which actually was a big thing. Well, like you said, it turned out to be almost inconsequential in the course of life, maybe, but in that election, it was definitely a big thing. He just got reelected, right? Last year. So explain to me what you mean by how you see him going far left, and what kinds of things should we be alarmed about? Because
what I'm talking about is this. But aside from the whole substance thing, okay,
sure, yeah.
If you looked at how Pierre Elliott Trudeau handled the FLQ, okay, and then you look at Donald Trump, okay, you think that he was Donald Trump.
Okay, so he was very hard on them.
He was hard on them. He was very hard. The guy had guts. He didn't falter. Okay. And he didn't apologize for a decision which was to keep law and order and the safety of the people.
And that was a liberal prime minister who did that.
He was a liberal prime minister. Okay. He was a liberal prime minister. Okay. And during when the FLQ was there, he enacted military. Martial? I think he enacted martial law.
Wow.
Right. He enacted emergency measures to have emergency measures to make sure that there was martial law, so that if there was, in the event, because the FLQ, they were bombing mailboxes, they were kidnapping members of parliament.
Wow, this is a terrorist group then.
They were a full-on terrorist group.
Holy cow! Okay.
Right. If you look at what they were fighting for, right, like, okay, you may feel sympathetic towards them, but the means does not support the end, gotcha. Right? I'll be more sympathetic. Noble cause, but they would think they were noble cause, but it's not exactly a noble cause the moment you start killing people and kidnapping people and harming them. Yeah. There was, I think, one of the people that they abducted ended up dying in their custody. When they were tried, when they asked, "How do you plead?" they plead responsible.
Really?
They pleaded responsible, not guilty, not innocent, responsible.
Responsible. Wow, that's interesting.
That was the thing. So, and their big thing was because a lot of English Canadians in Quebec were they were acting like almost like mini tyrants.
Okay.
For some of the French. I saw one one type of drama that was based on what happened with the FLQ.
Okay. And
where they kidnapped. What was the name of that minister in the last one? And essentially Trudeau Senior just said when they asked him to submit to their claims, otherwise we're going to kill this guy. Mm-hmm. He didn't submit. He didn't submit at all. He was like, I'm not gonna fall for terrorist threats. Wow. Regardless of this guy's, that's how hard Pierre Elliott Trudeau was, right? So it doesn't matter if this guy died or not.
So fast forward to Justin.
Justin, oh my God. This guy's like, and here's the thing is, Trudeau Senior, his dad would have apologized if he did something wrong. If he realized that he made a mistake, he would apologize. And if he really sincerely believed, if you debated the guy and for that, okay, Mr. Prime Minister, you did something wrong. Okay, he would probably, okay, you know what? Yeah, I made a mistake. And that, you know who's like that? Doug Ford, right?
Oh yeah,
Doug Ford's a lot like Trudeau Senior, but Justin Trudeau, well, Junior
just looks so fake to me. I don't know.
He's silver-tongued.
Yeah.
Very good speaker. Fake as fake can be. Two-sided, and just like a two-sided silver-tongued snake. I'm sorry. Yeah. That's if someone may think that's a little bit harsh, but it's true. Yeah. I mean, this guy. If he tries to make a deal with somebody on the international level, and he's done this, fails, and then goes behind and starts slandering them.
Jeez. Yeah.
Okay. He did it with Trump. I wouldn't be surprised if he does it with anybody else.
Yeah.
right?
So he's been in trouble or suspected to be trouble for corruption, right? A few times now, and it seems like they're just absolutely skating by, and nobody's holding them accountable to it. So
Abacan,
yeah,
We Charity, what was that last name?
Lavalin, remember that?
Lavalin, SNC
SNC.
Lavalin.
Yeah.
Like,
So and nothing is coming out. All we hear is that it's being swept on the road. You know, he's getting scot free, or he's kind of. I don't understand
yeah,
how nothing is even getting brought up. And is that
that's
because
the
our
problem.
media is not even calling him on it? Is our media just so bought by the government? Is it just so?
It's just not. Well, the thing is because he's a liberal prime minister. Put it that way, because
Well,
our
yeah.
CBC, okay, the CBC is CBS. They're officially left wing.
Okay.
They're officially that way. I mean, I just saw. I mean, you just look at the.
I've never seen anything nothing critical against Trudeau.
No, that's
How
the
can we
problem.
have? How can you have a news source, a news agency that's never critical?
No. And I think is if they, I mean, they caught him on that speaking moistly thing. That's about it. And everyone just,
oh my god! Or
everyone just took it as a no.
Blackface, whatever he did 50 times, but he's
Yeah.
okay. He can do it, right?
Yeah, he could do it. Like speaking, I don't like the speaking moistly thing is just funny.
Well, yeah,
Right.
because he's gaffed. Yeah, but he says all kinds of stupid shit.
Yeah, but yeah, he said a lot of crap. But the thing is, that's a joke. That's funny.
Yeah.
That's not really a big deal. That's an innocent slip up. Right?
Yeah,
But like saying things like people kind,
yeah.
like what are you, George W. Bush Jr. for Pete's sake? What the hell?
Well, he said he's switching to paper bottles for make water one day. He said something silly like that. Like
Something like that. I mean, he said, what happened is
I just don't think he's qualified. I know it sounds silly, but what's he doing there?
the reason why he wants to switch to non-plastics, right? To get rid of, like, to outlaw single-use plastics, is basically because because we've been selling all our plastics and all our recycling to China
Okay.
for the past few decades.
Yes.
China has been taking this material at cheap,
Yeah.
right? And they built their own recycling infrastructure
Okay.
that's really, really efficient, really good job, really great. Now, mind you that you do need China's population to be able to support this thing,
Yeah.
okay? But they built it. And after and just this past year, or this, I think earlier this year, they're like, to Canada, the United States, we don't need any more.
We don't need any more plastic.
We're not buying any more.
So now we're stuck with all our plastic.
Exactly. And that's why they had that issue with, I think it was with the Philippines, when Canada tried to sell all their trash to the Philippines.
And they didn't want
Right?
it.
And they didn't want it. Even to the point that they said that if you don't take it back, we're going to declare war on Canada.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
It didn't happen.
And that's the thing, is that people don't realize how much these trade issues, the wars and everything, it's all about money. It's all about
It is about money.
putting our trash in someone else's backyard. And if they don't like
Yeah.
it, if they're not paying us enough, yeah, it's all about that, right?
And let's be honest here, the government, especially in a socialist government, you cannot support everything.
No.
You can't. If you go to the extreme of a communist state,
Yeah.
you cannot. Your country is going to fail.
Yeah.
I mean, people in Russia suffered from in certain cases. I think they suffered from food shortages.
Oh yeah, there was
sometimes.
famine.
There was famine there. China, back in the 70s, there was huge amount of famine.
Yeah.
So what did the Chinese government, communist government do? They allowed all the farmland to be privatized.
There you go. That's the solution. It was back to
The solution.
capitalism, or
Go back to capitalism. Guess what? It started to go back up again.
Yeah.
Now this one of the most populous countries in the world, and everyone gets fed.
Oh yeah. Oh, they're doing well, right?
Mind you, they still need regulations on the way how they do that, because that part of the way that they're providing food is the same reason why we have COVID now, right?
Yeah.
Basically, the
Unregulated markets, or
the wet markets.
yeah.
They were told. Here's the thing: they were told about this happened before with SARS.
Okay.
SARS.
That's the other thing. This is SARS too. People keep on calling this COVID.
It is.
So SARS too.
It is SARS too.
Yeah.
COVID-19 and SARS are from the same strain, the same family of viruses.
Yeah.
Okay. If you look at them physically, they look very similar. They all have the corona on them, right?
Yeah.
They are both both strands of a coronavirus. They call this the novel coronavirus, the new coronavirus, because it's a new strain.
That's right. It's not novel anymore. It's been around now.
It's been around for almost a year now.
Yeah, over a year.
It's been a year now.
Yeah.
So, but what happened with SARS is that what happened is there's a long history to this. Is that when the famines broke out, so they allowed for the farmers to go out and cultivate food on their own.
Okay.
And this started out with a lot of small, very poor farmers going out and hunting animals, right? Okay. So snakes, birds, all sorts of different wildlife, turtles, and all that. They start hunting these creatures and selling them. On the wet market, you can find some pretty black market type of animals sale at the wet markets to eat.
Anything in nature, basically, right?
Including tigers.
Really?
Yeah, wow. Tigers. You can get tigers too. Tigers. What was this? That
monkeys. I've heard of monkeys and stuff. All
monkeys. Kinds of well, there's this one. That one particular. There was one little fellow that rolls up. Not an armadillo. But it's sort of armadillo-like. I forgot the name of this creature.
A hedgehog, maybe?
Not a hedgehog.
No.
It's got armor like an armadillo.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't have the ears stick out like this. It has little claws like this, and it's got a long snout. It eats ants.
Okay.
It eats ants and insects and termites like those, like an armadillo does.
Aardvark? No, maybe not an aardvark.
Not an aardvark.
I'm just guessing at this point. But yeah, I see what you mean.
It begins with a P, I think it is. Papa. Shoot, I forgot what it is called. Hold on, I'll look it up just a quick moment.
Sure, yeah.
It's just bugging me like crazy.
No problem.
Oh, okay, now I remember. I didn't even look it up. A pangolin.
Pangolin, okay.
Pangolin.
So it's similar to a armadillo.
Similar to those, yeah. So pangolin are there. They're very prized. I think, but they're on their endangered list as far as I know, right?
Wow.
So you get a lot of creatures that shouldn't be there. They're there. Now, here's the thing.
And bats and all those other things too, right?
Bats, yep. And they're there with the chickens and the cows and all that stuff and whatever.
So there's more chance of cross-contamination of different species, more chance it can go to humans, right?
Yeah, and it has to do with the way that they do the thing. So first of all, these animals are in cages that are stacked one on top of the other.
Yeah, no standards, no sanitation.
So any blood or feces or urine that comes from the animals from the top go down to the animals, down to the next one, and then go to the next one, and to the next one.
Yeah.
And usually what happens is certain viruses that affect one species, when they make the jump to another species, they don't always affect that species.
Yeah.
They have to adapt in order to inhabit that species. In the wet markets, that's the perfect environment to adapt because they have time to adapt, and they come and they start going down. They start adapting until they eventually make the jump to humans.
Yep. Well, you surround yourself with it long enough.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
And
I've heard that before. That basically one of the fixes is going to be, or could be, just standardizations, right? Make sure they have standards.
Yes. And the Chinese government didn't do much about it earlier because the wet markets started to become really, really well off. They started generating a lot of money.
Okay.
And it's not, and what happens is for these more exotic creatures, it's not the average Chinese person, the poor, lower class Chinese person or like that, or middle class Chinese person who goes and eats this stuff. It's the
elite,
wealthy, rich, the elites who go and eat this because it's something that no one else has ever eaten before.
Got you. It's more exotic. It's the elite.
Yeah, exactly. It's exotic. It's something that I say, oh, have you eaten this? No, I have. And guess what? So that basically it's a status thing.
And status is everything.
Status thing. And also there's certain medicinal things like rhino horns and stuff like that. Some cultures believe that rhino horns have medicinal properties. So there's other things too. So they were getting a lot of money from this. Then SARS broke out. Jeez. And the international communities found out that it was due to the wet markets in China.
Okay. Right? SARS-1.
SARS-1.
Okay.
The first one. Right. Yep. And as well as there were other wet markets that were around that. And it was not just China, but there's Thailand and other areas around China where they have these types of wet markets. And they said, okay, these wet markets have to stop.
So
You have to
identified
change,
them. Okay.
yeah, you have to change the standards of this so that you don't have this happen again. So China said they'd comply.
Gotcha.
And all the other countries, they said they complied for the time being. But as the stuff started to go further and further down, money went down. Well, guess what? China was like, okay, we're forgetting about these standards again.
And that's basically
At
20 years later, right?
Yeah, yep. But
Almost.
not within 20 years. In 10 years.
10 years.
In 10 years' time, by then, they're back to their old ways.
Wow.
And
SARS 2.
SARS 2 comes out
Jeez.
this time.
Yeah.
They learned their lesson. And and now we have COVID that's been spreading around the world now. And just SARS also spread around the world too. We still don't have a vaccine for it.
No.
We don't have a
Well, that's the
vaccine
thing too. So I'm hearing all these Pfizer and all these companies saying they have a vaccine now of 95% effective rate and all this stuff. I'm like, I don't know who to trust anymore. First of all, I'm not generally a fan of vaccines to begin with, right? Other than the ones that we've got and everybody
we know about,
Yeah, the ones that have been around for a long time. But these novel vaccines, they almost scare me more than the novel virus does. You know what I mean? Like, it usually takes years of research and everything. And now these vaccines are up and running in a couple months, and how effective it is. And I'm worried
They're gonna have
more
side
about
effects.
Well, exactly. I'm worried more about the side effects than they are of even the chance of getting virus. Like for me personally. So I know there's going to be a lot of people that aren't into the vaccine, but there are a lot of people who are going to be up for the vaccine. So I just hope it works out for everybody. And I hope that they, they have the science down, right? And it is okay. But the lockdowns, I don't know. Like, what do you think about when people talk about the impact of the lockdowns? Do you think they caused that as much damage as the
I think we need to be able to strike a balance. Yeah. Like, I do understand that this thing they say that this is a very contagious virus.
Yeah.
There are some pretty bad side effects to it, apparently. Right.
Some lasting effects, right?
Some lasting effects.
Yeah.
The survival rate is around 90% though.
Very good. Yeah.
So the death rate is very low. You look at like Ebola, right? That was a pandemic.
Yeah.
That had hit in Africa. The death rate in that was like 64%.
Yeah. So the transmission rate was lower, I think.
Yeah,
right?
The transmission rate was lower,
but
the death rate was higher.
Yeah.
And if you go look at what the swine flu, right? Swine flu, you caught swine flu, you're dead in moments.
Yeah, it was rough shape. Yeah.
You're dead.
That's the thing too that we forget with all this fear and all this rhetoric we've been hearing about COVID, that we oftentimes forget our logical senses. Like, wait a second, there's much more deadly viruses out there. Yes, they weren't widespread like this, right? But there's a portion, and I've kind of learned that there's almost a happy medium. The more deadly something gets, the less it spreads almost, right? Because it's contained and it's more severe, and we do full lockdowns. It's almost that happy medium of the virus's effectiveness or deadliness is that where it's more dangerous, because we're not sure if we should lock it down and get spread. I mean, the other thing too is that I often talk about, or often want to talk about, I often hear, is that when have we ever, like, we don't talk about the immune system. We don't talk about how healthy it is to keep our people healthy until we get sick. And then we talk about, we're the most reactive, our healthcare is 100% reactive, right? We don't talk about prevention much. And when we do talk about prevention, it's only prevention from like big business and big food and all that stuff, right? We've been told,
which is kind of bull. That's a very liberal type of mentality.
It is,
where
right?
Just look at this.
It's government funded, right? It's government pushed as opposed to market.
Just look at sex education.
Yeah.
Sex education is basically very reactive. Instead of teaching kids instead of teaching kids discipline and self-control, here's a condom.
Yeah.
Go do whatever you want. Like, okay,
I guess.
You don't give kids a license to drive until they're 16 years old. You don't let them vote. Yeah. And you're going to teach them it's okay for them to have sex when they're 14 years old. And this is and the thing is, the liberals like to separate sex from having babies, which is dumb.
Yeah.
Because unless you're gay, okay?
Yeah. Yeah, no, they really shouldn't. It's funny because even when I was younger, growing up in the liberal system, I would have absolutely fallen for that idea, right? Of, well, sex is different than than
no, it's stupid.
Exactly the same. The consequence.
Take a woman
Get married.
Take a boy, take any male and any female, any healthy male, any healthy female, put them together, let them have sex every single day, 3 times a day for 2 months.
Yeah. See what happens.
See what happens.
Yeah.
She's pregnant.
Yeah, it's gonna happen in a lot of cases.
And he's screwed.
Well, that's he's smart.
She's pregnant and he's stuck. That's what it is, right? Unless he's one of these less honorable guys who runs away.
Or she's stuck with him. Yeah.
Yeah, they're both stuck, right?
But no, I know what you mean. I mean, there's consequences, right? And there's real world consequences. And instead of just avoiding them or try to mitigate them, let's really talk about them, because it's not like the other thing that we often forget is that having a child is the most wonderful thing in the world.
Yes.
That gets forgotten, right? When we say, let's try not get pregnant, let's wear condoms, let's do this, let's do it, we forget about the whole purpose.
Yeah,
really.
They treat pregnancy like an STD.
Exactly.
It's not.
To be avoided. I know. And if we
it's
maybe
a normal
focus on
thing. Honestly, if we...
It's a balance, right? Education, like you said,
yes.
But the intention. What is the intention?
Exactly. And instead of teaching young ladies to have abortions if they have unexpected pregnancy, maybe we should be teaching families to support their daughters who end up in those situations, and teaching the boys who got them into that situation to take responsibility for their actions.
That's right.
And take care of the children that they sired.
That's right. And even to add on that, to be progressive enough to say, you don't have to live with this woman, you don't have to live with this man, but you are going to be responsible, right?
Yeah. Well, at that age, you're still too young, right?
But the idea of being responsible is for and that person's family is also responsible, right? That man's family is also responsible. No, you're right. It's because, and that plays to the community. If we thought in a community mentality, right?
Yeah.
Then when someone gets pregnant, the whole community gets pregnant.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what happened. And you know what? In Japan, I mean, they have this, and in most Eastern countries, right? Yeah. If a girl comes and tells a boy's family, says, "My name is so and so. I would please, I'm so and so. I'm pleased to make your acquaintance. First of all, to make your acquaintance, can I speak with so and so?" It calls their son by name. Yeah. First thing, they were like, "How do you know this girl?" Yeah. Right? And then the next thing says, "All I ask is that he please take responsibility for what happened last night." And like the next thing you know, the boy's father will be beating on him. Mother will be slapping him left and right. Right? I know. Says, "Oh, you freaking good for nothing garbage. What the hell did you do to this poor girl?" Right? So
I know. Not saying that's good either, but you're right.
That's
it's the whole idea of responsibility, right?
Yeah, and it comes from the parents. Okay, that's fine, right? Because the parents' our job to instill responsibility into their children.
Teach them. That's
the thing. But to do the opposite and say, "Oh, it's okay. You two can handle it." No. They're kids.
Yeah.
They can't handle SWAT.
And not only that, the state has almost inadvertently encouraged them to use the state, right?
Yes.
Well, that's the problem. If you want to live with your mom and dad, you can go and get assistance. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't get assistance, right? Because there are many situations where people are left out high and dry, and that's what our system is for, right? But I wonder how much of our society would be different if the government said, hey, talk to your parents about it. You know what I mean? They never do that.
Exactly.
It's almost like talk to your teacher more than your mom.
That's the problem.
I don't understand
that. That's because
that's the state.
The state will do that because they're afraid of the values that the parents will teach the kids.
And
it could be different.
And I just thought about it from another kind of nefarious ways that the state wants control.
Exactly. And what do they do when they're teaching kids liberal values? Even the We Charity was teaching kids all liberal values.
Yes.
And when they go and the liberal values, and they also teach your parents are old and outdated.
Yes.
They don't know what you know. Okay.
That's such a terrible message, you know.
They don't know what you know. Well, guess what? Ask the kids, who are you learning this stuff from?
Yeah.
Is it from a total stranger? Or is it from your mother and father who have been with you since day one?
Well, exactly.
Isn't this other person also just as old as your parents?
Yeah, exactly. Now this person's a smart one though, but your parents are dumb, right?
Yeah, exactly.
How convenient is that?
Your mother and father who dressed you and clothed you and fed you and everything and raised you, brought you into this world, who are gonna be with you from the day you're born till the day they die.
Yes.
Hopefully it's before the day they die, not the day you die, because there'll be more. I've had a situation. My great aunt, who she outlived her eldest son now she was like almost 100.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
And he died when he was in his 70s.
Yeah. But it's a bit of a curse for her, right?
So yeah,
I mean,
so it was and she was just very, very sad to see that happen. And the last thing a mother or even father wants to see is see their child die before them.
Absolutely.
Right?
You're right.
So
and the idea that any teacher, right, or on average, not any individual teachers are wonderful. Individual government people are sure are wonderful, but as a whole, the idea that the state has your interest, has your interest in heart better than your parents. It's asinine. It is asinine. No one's going to feed you every day, like you said, clothe you every day, and then want poor for you. It's just want negative or ill for you. It's just not how it happens.
Yeah, and one of these teachers I know, that the friend of mine, they actually when we're talking about what we should teach the kids, that the parents should have a say in it. His argument was, us teachers see your kids more time, spend more time with your kids during the day than you do. Unlike you as individuals will only spend 1 year with my kid. Exactly. Not even less, like 9 months. Yeah. You'll spend 9 months with my kid.
Yeah, and then we're gone.
And then you're gone. And then someone else will replace them. The only ones who are consistent are me and are his mother and father.
You're right.
And maybe even grandma and grandpa. And
aunties. Yeah, I mean, in our families, right? Like, if I got spanked from my dad or my uncle, it doesn't matter who was around. If I deserved it, I deserved it, right? You know what I mean? But yeah, like and it goes back to, it takes a village to raise a child, literally, right? So I oftentimes feel like sometimes this big government encourages the children away from the village. I don't like that. We need more of the village, right? I think
it takes a village to raise a child.
Absolutely. I think sometimes the alternative, right, or the conservative side of the spectrum historically got shit on because these seemed too extreme to some people. And looking now, it's funny, extreme in the 80s was just religious folks. We called them extreme. Now extreme is really extreme, right?
It is extreme. Like, the thing is, the religious folks were reasonable. I mean, they're talking about slut shaming and all this stuff. The thing is they shamed those types of behaviors for a reason. It's so that you would stop doing that. Yeah. You're being a fool to assume that you can do that and stay out of trouble. Yeah. If you are a woman and you have sex outside of marriage, you're fooling yourself. I'm sorry, because unless you really do want to get pregnant, okay.
I don't know. Like, it's tough.
It's gonna be tough, and trust me, it's tough. There are a lot of single moms who can tell you that it is tough being a single mom. It is not easy, especially if you don't have. If you have your parents there, your mom, dad, brothers and sisters to help you, okay, then that's a little bit easier. But if you're a single mom and you really are by yourself, it's very, very difficult. Absolutely. And expensive too, because you got to go for childcare. And I can tell you, those daycares, unless you're going to send your kid to Montessori, right, or something like that, those daycares, especially the cheaper ones that are provided by the government, provided by the government, are not exactly very good.
Well, and you touched on the what should be, I think, is the perfect scenario where if a man and woman, right, if they decide to have sex and they decide to get pregnant, I think the best scenario would be for both families, right, to support that child, right, and support that whole family. If that couple is going to be together, great. That's literally how life is, right? Two people get together. Now, the age, of course, matters. No one wants our young kids to get married, but there's an argument to say that maybe we're having kids too late these days. There's an argument for that, right?
We need to teach young boys responsibility.
Absolutely.
Boys and we need to teach young girls how to be girls again.
Yeah, but also to your point, boys have to be boys as well, right? Because
boys have to be boys. Yeah, boys have to be boys as they were decades ago when you taught responsibility and respect.
Exactly. Exactly. An admirable boy was always an admirable boy, and an admirable girl is always an admirable girl.
Exactly. Right? It's like Mr. Rogers used to say, right? Yeah. Right. That Mr. Rogers had a nice way of saying it. That, he had this nice little poem. Hey, everybody knows anybody who knows Mr. Rogers, you can't hate Mr. Rogers. Yeah, right? Sure. The guy is
until he uncovers something in his past. That's the other thing these days, right? It's like there's no chance of redemption in this crazy woke culture too, right?
Yeah.
Like, I made mistakes in my past, right? I'm a life. I'm 42 years old. I went through high school, went through college. I make mistakes. I did some terrible things, I'm sure. Maybe not as terrible as other things, but more terrible than other people, right? And you have to be able to say, I'm sorry, I fucked up. I learned, I'm wiser now, but I'm still going to make mistakes, right? And it's like sometimes this far craziness. I don't know if it's the left to blame, but it seems like the climate today. But we're in this sense where you can't say anything and you can't make a mistake because heaven forbid you made a mistake. Well, holy shit, how am I going to learn?
That's the cult I was talking about.
Yeah, like how do you how can you learn?
The left wing is actually they have essentially become their ideology has become their religion. Yeah. Campuses have become the holy ground of left-wing ideology, whereas they used to be an open platform for freedom of thought, freedom of speech, for coming up with new ideas and coming up with new outlooks on everything, and analyzing the old, as well as ways of analyzing the old ways and see what they did right, learning from history, and then progressing forward towards something that will turn out better.
Mm-hmm. But now it just seems like we're all shitting on all of our history now.
That's the problem. And on top of that, there is no redemption. There's no form of redemption. And there are atheist commentators who are basically talking about the new left woke religion, right? The new left woke cult. Yeah, and they feel so, and the thing is, they are these people who were strongly against theism in general, are coming out and saying, I feel sympathetic towards Christianity now, because in Christianity there is a redemption there's a redemption statement that if you sin, if you do something wrong, you can always confess your sins and then repent and come back. And people will say, okay, come back now, we'll accept you.
And this is how society was built. Right?
Exactly.
It was like that, whether it was just Christianity or other parts of the world, right? It was the idea that people need to have forgiveness. Mm-hmm. Right? And not only that, like Christianity, other religions, I'm sure, says you're not forgiving man. It's forgiveness from God that you should ask for, right? And that's the other thing too, is that if you take away my redemption, then are you taking the place of God as well?
That's the problem.
Is the state trying to do that as well?
Yeah.
Like that's
if you look at these old values, I mean, especially like no having sex before marriage, and also even if this now they're saying slut shaming is a bad thing. No, it's not. Telling anyone who has sex before marriage that you're doing the wrong thing is not wrong.
I think if you do it equally, then it's fine. Do it equally.
If you do it, okay. But if you're going to have, okay.
No, I mean shame equally. Like
shame equally. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. You do with the boys too.
Yeah, shame them all.
Do with the boys too. For right? Sure. I don't mind it. That my father would be freaking, on me.
It's equally, right? If it's irresponsible, it's equally irresponsible. Equally,
it is equally responsible. Yeah. And if you look at there is this one movie called The Cardinal, right? Okay. I think I talked about this before, but the same show, the Cardinal, when he's still a priest, he lives in a family where he has two sisters, okay, right? And he's the eldest of the family, right? The eldest child of the family. His younger sister falls in love with a Jewish boy, right? And the brother is a priest, the eldest brother is a priest, and he says that, and the Jewish boy is willing to come and convert to being a Catholic, right? Okay. And the whole family is just fine with it and all that, and getting married and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Then they find out that they've been having sex before getting married.
Okay.
Before getting married, they end up having sex. Okay, and this is an Irish family. Okay, the priest family is Irish, very very stereotypical Irish family from back then. Okay. Right? Yeah. So at the reception, the whole Catholic family is there. Okay. Right, the whole Irish family is there. And the boy is there with his family, and just him and his mother and father, and his father were like very, like this, very quiet and all that stuff, right? They're not very happy about becoming Catholic, right? Okay. And while the priest family was very decent folks, there was a few others there that were not so nice, right? Okay. So that he goes and tells, I think I forgot what the boy's last name was, but there was an older man who came up and says, "Here's to the fine young couple. Here's to Julie and their future husband, whatever his name is." Yeah. And then he says, "But don't let the last name fool you. He's going to be changing his last name to you. He's soon to be changing that to a good Catholic name, an Irish name, O'Malley, right? O'Malley, yeah. Right?" And his mother and father looked pretty bad. And from that point, the boy didn't like it because of what this old man says. And despite that, the girl's brother is trying to encourage him, don't listen to him. Not all of us are like that, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And all that stuff. But he calls it off. But she's still having sex with him.
Okay.
When the family finds out, her older sister freaks. Right? Older sister freaks and starts. She's angry with her. She's lecturing her and all that stuff. And he says, "I don't know her. I love him," and all that stuff. Right? Older sister comes up to her, smacks her across the face, calls her a slut.
Huh.
Right? Calls her a slut. She goes crying up to her room.
Okay.
Right? And then the older brother was like, "Don't you think she was a little bit harsh on her?" And she says, "You know what happens if she gets pregnant? Then what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Not just her. What is the family going to do?"
Yeah.
So this is a caring older sister, regardless of what people. She's worried about her younger sister.
Yeah.
Right? And the mother and father are trying to play diplomat, right? And the brother is trying to, the older brother is trying to between the two sisters. He's trying to set things right. And then what happens is she gets pregnant. Okay.
Yeah.
Now they don't know what to. Now they're wondering what to do. And the doctors say, "Would you like to consider an abortion for the child?" And they says, I cannot do this. And the reason why they do this is because, but they go forward with having the baby, right?
Okay.
And then she goes into she loves her older brother like crazy, right? Older brother is his baby sister, right?
Yeah.
Dotes on her like oh, my little precious type of thing, right?
Yeah.
And when he was her hero, so to speak, but what happened is when during the pregnancy there were complications, and the doctor said to her brother, he's a Catholic priest, "Would you like this? We cannot save both her either. We cannot save both of them. We have to either save her, the mother, or we save the baby. So we cannot." It says, "Would you like to? We can proceed with an abortion, right? At late term on that."
Yeah.
And the priest said, I can't. How can I do that? How can I play God like that?" And she says, "I love my sister, but this is also my niece, right?
Wow.
And the thing is, who am I to play God that I should choose between allowing God to do to take his course, to basically to allow him to decide who lives and dies. He who gave life to both of them, right?
Wow.
It should be his. This is not mine, right? To decide who lives or dies, right?
Yeah.
And she went into he was almost in tears but they took her into the thing, and they sent him outside the delivery room.
Yeah.
Closed the doors, and all he heard is she's screaming his name. Screaming brother, like big brother, and it's calling him big brother.
Yeah.
And calling for him, and then he's slamming, he's banging against the doors, and he collapses.
Yeah.
Like he almost he collapses. Like he's still conscious, but he collapses to the floor in tears. They save the baby, and she dies.
Wow.
But then years later, but here's the thing: the family takes care of the baby.
Yes.
Grandma, grandpa, uncles, and aunties all take care of the new baby.
So I guess that's the stories that the family there would always take care of the family.
Exactly. The family took care of the family. And then a few years later, after what happens is he goes off to Vatican, and then comes back sometime later. And they show a few years later where his niece comes running to him. His uncle, I forgot what his name is. This uncle.
Wow.
How have you been? And so says, I will never regret the day I had to make the decision to let this child live.
Wow. That's tough, man. Yeah.
Right.
I
so
get it. Well, and like you said, I mean, I grew up with that whole family mentality, and family first. I'm sure you did as well, right? And in so many families and so many cultures, sometimes growing up, when I saw the idea of like or when you have that idea of independence, right? You want to move out, I want to go and see outside, especially if you come from a small town, right? But then when you get older, you realize, I don't know when it happens, maybe when we have kids or maybe before we had kids, when, you know, tough times come in, or whether you have health issues, but somewhere down the road, everybody is reminded how massively important our family is to us, right? Yeah. We always at one point, maybe some people it takes until they're 50 years old or 60 years old or 70 years old. And some of us get the message when we're really young, but
yeah,
it comes down to that. It's family is the most important thing. And like you said, when I feel like the state is either not making a law, but they're really encouraging the breakups of the family. Sometimes it actually feels like there's an ulterior motive. You know what I mean? I don't want to say that there is evil behind the idea of you know, the state supporting us, because it's supposed to be there for people that need support. So I get that. So how do you balance that? How do you balance? Maybe we build up both sides, right? I mean, rebuild up that family, that community again, and maybe it's, I don't know, maybe the churches need to change. Maybe I don't know. What do you think about that?
I don't think, well, the church, as far as I don't know about the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
The core doctrine of the church will never change.
No.
It will never change. It's not, there are liberals who think that it could possibly, no, it has not changed in over 2,000 years. It will never change.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's something to be said, right? I mean, it's
like Pope Francis right now, he says that it's okay to have gay civil unions, but will not redefine marriage to mean that you can have two men or two women married.
So his idea, or his words about gay civil marriage, is really just his opinion, because he's got no say over it anyway, right?
Well, that's not really totally true, because what he says actually affects everyone else in the Catholic Church.
Well, the Catholic Church, but I mean, a civil union isn't performed by the church anyway, is it?
No, no, it isn't. And here's the difference. Here's the difference between marriage from a practical standpoint and a homosexual civil union. Okay. A homosexual civil union is essentially a social aid. That's what it is.
Which is the contract, legal. But isn't that what marriage is, just a contract anyway?
There's a difference here. Here's the thing. The whole original practical purpose of marriage, right, is to ensure that the father would stay with the mother in order to take care of the children. His primary focus was kids. Yeah. This is the core build. This was how you built a family. Okay, this is how families came up.
For sure.
Now, family, you had, before that, you had clans, right? You had your clan, and this allowed, but because the thing that happened is, you would have the father, the would-be father, would mate with mom, and then he would mind his own business. The sole responsibility of child rearing fell to the mother. While he got to go, and the clan. Well, the clan would help in supporting everyone else, right? Everyone, but it was focused on her, and so the thing is that
so the church brought in marriage then, right?
No, this was actually this was not the church that brought it in.
I thought.
I remember marriage was there long before the church. The Jewish people did it. People in Islam did it. The natives did it. Native Americans did it on the other side of the globe.
Okay, I didn't know that they had unions like that. Okay.
Oh yeah. They had marriages. This is not something that's typical.
I honestly just thought, I thought it was like a Judeo-Christian type of thing.
No.
Okay.
How do you think that you have marriage in Buddhism?
That's true, I guess. Yeah. So what's the purpose? What's the purpose of marriage then? Keep the family together, right?
Keep the family together. It's mostly to create a secure environment for children. And here's the thing. The reason is because if the father knows who the child is, he has more incentive to take. He knows this is my flesh and blood. He has more incentive to take. From a nature standpoint, I'm going to take care of this. If you have a kid, let's say hypothetically, your wife had a previous marriage, whether it was ended in divorce or she being a widow, whatever the case mean, and she had a child by that one. You two then had Lily and your other child there, right? What was your other one? Violet. Yeah. So Lily and Violet came second. So now your Lily and Violet have a half sibling as well. That's older to Lily, right?
Sure.
And to both of them. You now, due to the fact that this child is not yours, right? I think this is the case with a lot of men, despite that they don't want to say it out loud because the women don't feel happy about it, or most of these societies won't be happy about it. You lean more favorably towards your own child. to your own flesh and
I
blood.
suppose that could happen. I suppose, yeah. I don't know for sure, but I knew what you mean. It
Yeah,
makes
right. And women do this too. You can't say that women don't do this, because there are a lot of cases where women do the same thing. If you have a man who brings a child from another woman, she will lean towards her own child.
Okay.
So it's nature. It's natural.
Nature, I suppose. Yeah, I suppose.
So,
I suppose.
yeah, I mean, there are families that go off and they'll be compassionate.
And like you said,
child.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that it's not going to work necessarily, but you're speaking to kind of natural.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that makes sense. It's more of a, but I wonder though, because if you go back far enough, right, to the fact where it did, like before marriages even, how did we manage this before marriages?
Mothers were the gatherers. If they hunted very small creatures, right? They would have to go with child in tow. No, they would have to. They'd have to go around with child in tow,
or
keep the child in a den. And all you have to remember is you have to understand whether or not she was within a strong community in the first place, right? So, and the thing is, if she came across a male who happened to be from another community or from someplace else, or if he was a rogue, there happens. There you have rogue males in nature. Yeah. So I mean, even amongst very social animals, you'll get males who are rogue males. That means they're like lone wolves. Yeah. And they go off, and this is very typical. Boys go off they leave the family to go off and find their fortune. Yeah, no,
right? It's true. So
very typical. Yeah. While girls will stay home with the family, right? So what you have is that.
But that's the thing. There's an element of nature there that often we don't speak about. We think, well, anybody can be anything they want, and that's true. Anybody sure has the right? Yeah. But nature doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. You can go around. Otherwise, you can go around having the gazelles fight for their rights with the tigers, with the lions, not tigers, the lions. Say you shouldn't eat us. We want to live. And then what's going to happen is the lions are going to be like, no, we need to eat you because we want to live. Right?
That's right.
So it doesn't work that way. So it's survival in that case. But with this case, what happens is most of the time it would be, and most of the early civilizations were actually matriarchal.
Yeah, I believe that too. It makes sense because
the vast majority were.
Well, and if you think
had these
about
very small family groups.
That's right. And the mother, the grandmother, the maternal presence in any house that I've been in has always kept the family together anyway. So
exactly,
it's
always the mother who's been the glue.
Well, exactly, and it's not we somehow along the way that got bastardized to look like it was a negative against women. Well, it's actually a positive. You know what I mean? Like women create all the babies. Women are the superpower. They are the superheroes. They create all the people. Really?
Oh yeah.
So
it's a team. Women are, let's put it this: that women are the main focus.
But they should be
that way. They should be. They are the main. They have been the main focus.
Well, they're the creators
even under patriarchal societies. They have been the main focus.
And that's where it gets muddy, right? People think that under a patriarchal society, women are always oppressed, and it's not.
No, they're not. It's actually by nature in the initial start, especially in the beginning, patriarchal societies, women were like treasures.
I wonder what happened.
Women and children were tools.
I wonder
what happens is
that shift between the matriarchal to the patriarchal. Like
it's when you start going into larger societies, right?
Armies, probably when armies were involved, I bet.
Well, not just armies, but running whole larger communities. Matriarchal societies were very, very good at micromanaging. If you look at moms,
small group, 100 people or maybe or less or something.
No, even less than that. Maybe like 10 people.
10 or 20. Like a family.
Right? Like a small family.
Yeah.
Which is perfect for mom and grandma because
and a couple of
what do they do? If you have a bunch of kids running around, what do you got? You got to be able to make sure you manage every single one of the little guys.
Yeah.
Right?
Clothes and Billy, all that stuff.
No. Yeah, I mean, you look at mom, she's got one kid hanging off her side, another kid is breastfeeding.
Well,
and she's doing the thing at the same.
Absolutely, that's why women are such great at coordinating that stuff.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
They're meant to. That's what they're built for. I mean, even their waist is built for after they they put the baby on the hip and carry it. You and I, we don't have that. We carry it. Okay,
I got some pretty good hips, Des. I got the nice hips.
You got the hourglass figure there, eh?
But no, you're right. It's like it's nature tells us in so many ways, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
And my wife, she still carries my son on her hip.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing. Like somewhere along
Right?
the way, though, I think
She's 8
feminism.
years old
Well, there you go. Like somewhere
and
along the
almost as
way,
big as her, right?
I wonder if somewhere along the way, like you said, when feminism kind of takes bad turns
Oh my
sometimes,
God,
and it
feminism is
gets hijacked by the idea that it wasn't good to be a homemaker when it's actually the best thing. Like
feminism of the
Mother's Day and
1960s was the worst.
like moms and grandmothers and like you can't thank your mother and your grandmother enough, can you? And your aunties
No.
and everybody. Like every time I feel like anytime I've ever needed help in my life, it's been a mother or grandmother or an aunt or you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, the ones I have, the women I have the most respect for are my first and foremost, the well, besides Mother Mary, the
Well,
one woman I
your
have
mother.
respect for the most is my grandmother, and second, my
Yeah.
mom,
Well, of course,
because of all the wisdom that I got from my grandma, and of course, I respect
yeah.
my mother too.
And honestly, like it's the women. Like I mean, I'm just on an episode just about women, but honestly, I can't praise them enough, right? My
Mhm.
mother, my wife itself, have given birth to my children, right? And the whole
Yeah,
idea. So I don't think that the idea of women staying home, or the idea of men and women staying together, or the idea of us encouraging family, it's by no means to put down a woman's liberties or freedoms or anything
no,
like that.
it's to
It's
basically fulfill her nature,
well, and our nature, right,
and
is to
our nature
support
too. We
women.
need that.
Exactly, it's our whole
Kids
nature.
need that. Honestly, the thing is, they say that children need their moms. And my wife is a Montessori teacher. She'll
Of
back it
course.
up. For the first 3 to 4 years, it's
Oh
very
yeah,
crucial for a child to have your mom.
yeah,
If you're
yeah.
having trouble forming a bond with your child, okay, try this. Whenever you plan, if you have a kid,
Hmm.
have mom stay home with the kid if you can afford to do that.
Yeah.
Have mom stay home with the kid until they go off to kindergarten.
Oh, I mean, that's ideal, right? But that's the
That's
problem is that we
ideal.
can't afford it these days because we've created.
Buddy, you have no idea. My wife, she stayed home when I had
No,
a really hard time
it's very
being
hard.
able to make ends meet.
Oh yeah,
Our
it's difficult.
family, people complain, oh, we don't have the money. Our family was subsiding at about anywhere from 50 to $100 a month on groceries.
It's crazy. We make it work, right? Somehow.
You make it work. I mean, the thing is,
That's what family's for, though. That's why
yeah,
your mom and dad and your aunts
yeah,
and
my mom, my dad, that's the thing. My mom and dad, they help. My sister
yeah,
helped. This is
yeah,
before my sister was married,
yeah.
right? So,
Well, and that's why families live together. That's why families
yeah,
have jars and cans in the basement. They store, they plan ahead. Like the whole idea
that's
of
why we
us
need
living
grandparents also.
is instant gratification in life, right? That's part of the problem.
Grandparents are like the ultimate safety net.
Yeah,
I kid you not, because grandma and grandpa, in 9 times out of 10, in most cases,
yeah,
grandma and grandpa have lived their life. They've gone to work. They've
yeah,
done their thing. They have earned they have made their mark,
yeah.
and now it's time for them to relax.
And the best thing is that
And
if we utilize them, not to abuse them, but if we utilize them
no,
for the child rearing, then we tap into all that wisdom. And that
exactly.
wisdom is lost when we ship them to a home. It's lost when we
Yes.
put them in a hospital or whatever it is. I'm not saying that anybody's doing that, on purpose, but we need to really focus more about the community and all that stuff and the family. I wonder if instead of focusing on seniors' homes, or instead of focusing on single support, I wonder if the government can somehow encourage families to keep their loved ones at home,
Yeah.
to keep I wonder if they could somehow subsidize the family.
In Asia, what the typical tradition is that you have a household, grandma and grandpa live on the bottom floor,
Yeah.
and the other rest of the family lives on the top floors.
Hey, I grew up with my grandparents living with us for the first kind of 8 or 9 years of my life, and then they got
Oh
a
yeah.
place, and then my grandmother moved back with us. But yeah, it's every culture has it, right? So it's again, it's these in the idea of progress, we've kind of veered off, and so individuals, like even the family, we're breaking up. No, that's gone too far now, and that's the thing.
It
You're
is.
no longer progressing to a place I want to be if you're breaking up the family.
No, you're not progressing towards anything beneficial at all if you're breaking up the family.
Exactly, because that's
Ridiculous.
the core of our society.
No, what you're breaking towards, what you're progressing towards is a totalitarian is being more susceptible to a totalitarian regime.
So individual only.
Individual only under the
Yeah.
control of the government. That is the very definition of a totalitarian regime.
Exactly, and that's you're turning into a robot.
Yeah. You're
And
a
you can't
cog
think
in
of
the
yourself
gear.
anymore because you don't have your
Sorry,
family.
you're a cog in the machine, not the cog in the gear. You're a
Yeah,
cog or gear in the machine.
yeah, exactly. It's terrible.
So yeah.
Well, what's the solution then, Des? What do we do?
All we
Gotta
need
get
to
Trudeau out of
change-
here.
No, but Trudeau is part of the problem, to be
Yeah.
honest. Unless that guy changes, right?
Yeah, what he's
He's-
doing at least right now is showing that.
Well, I thought that he would change after he ended up with going from a majority government to a minority government. He seemed a little more cautious. He seemed to be a little bit less flamboyant and all that stuff, a little bit more choosy with his words. But I mean, the guy was a total. Before that,
Yeah.
oh my God, what a cocky bastard! Honestly,
Well, and honestly, I think sometimes an event or a crisis it's always been known a crisis is the best way to get
yeah.
power and get control, right? And this is people are afraid, and rightfully so. I mean, I understand why they're afraid. I'm on the spectrum of I'm trying not to be afraid too much of COVID because I think that there's other things in life to worry about.
Yeah, just
which
wear a mask. That's it.
other people do too. Exactly, right? Wear a mask.
There's nothing to be afraid of, really.
Wash
Just
your
wear a
hands.
mask.
If you're sick,
wash your
stay
hands
home.
is basic hygiene.
Yeah.
The most the most dangerous what people perceive as one of the most dangerous viruses in history can be prevented by wearing a mask, washing your hands with soap and hand sanitizer, and keeping yourself clean.
Yeah,
that's all there is to it.
And
keep yourself distance away from someone. Don't go around hugging them. If you go around to somebody with your mask off, hug someone and blah, 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 all over in their face, of course you're going to run the risk of catching something. That's not exactly hygienic.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And just like other things too, is that we have to remember our regular common rules. Normally, if you had the flu or a cold, you wouldn't sneeze all over the place. Same rules.
No, exactly.
Cover you up, do whatever. Yeah.
It's very simple to take care of this stuff, and people, if they're blowing it out of conversion, of course people are going to get sick.
Yeah.
And the thing, but you look at the numbers of people, how many died and how many people are sick, it's like relative to the rest of the population.
Yeah.
It's not that large.
It's very small. That's right. And people don't like to talk about this, but people die every year from the flu and the cold. And they don't like to talk about that, but that's the reality, right?
They don't. They like to say, don't compare it to the cold or the flu. I'm like, of course, it's a disease. Both of them are respiratory diseases.
You have to compare metrics.
You have to make comparisons.
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong with making comparisons.
And that's part of the
questions.
And that's part of the problem. That's part of the problem is I think the narrative was that this is so special that now you have to listen to me. That's the kind of narrative I got.
That's a dangerous narrative.
Yep, that scared me.
That's a dangerous narrative.
And the last thing I want to talk about, Des, if we can, this whole reset. I don't know if you heard about, but the idea is that I really think that Trudeau and the government is trying to really say that bring us together in this whole kind of global one world reset. And I don't know what that means to you, but it kind of scares me because we don't need to reset.
Not gonna work.
We don't need to reset anything. We need to go back to life. Right?
No. Yeah, we need elected officials. We need to actually not reset, but we need to try and go back a little bit towards our roots.
Course correction.
So a little bit of, we need a lot of course correction by this point. We need a little bit of course correction 10 years ago. We need a lot more course correction now, right? Because it's gotten too far. When you got like even down south, especially down south, you got people, the government saying defund the police. Instead of saying reform the police and take things. Here's the thing. Here's why I say it's not as bad here in Canada as they have it down south. Is because Black Lives Matter and Black Lives Matter in Canada and Black Lives Matter in the US are two different beasts. Okay. They're two different. I mean that really nicely. The thing is, they're two different entities. Okay. In a way, because you have Black Lives Matter in Canada, which is normal. They are actually protesting peacefully. I've seen some of their protests, and they amount to some kids. Like one of them was a bunch of skateboarder kids going with masks on, down on skateboards with signs that said Black Lives Matter. Okay, fine. That's fine. Yeah. I don't mind that at all. Okay?
So we haven't seen riots or things like that, have we?
No, we haven't had any riots here. There's been confrontations between Black Lives Matter groups and certain groups like in Ingersoll. Okay. But that had nothing to do with race. It had to do with the fact that these people had no masks on, were congregating in an area with a high level of seniors.
Gotcha. So it was a COVID concern.
It was a COVID concern.
Yeah. Well, and I support protests. I support it. Go. Yeah. Marches. I support all of that stuff, right? And I like to hear that it is different. Now, you were saying earlier, is the message the same?
The message is the same, though. The thing it depends on who's telling it. Some are more radical than others.
Because I think we can all agree that Black Lives Matter. That's never a question.
Yeah, everyone. No one's saying that Black lives don't matter. Everyone knows Black lives matter. But the whole all lives matter rhetoric is the whole all lives matter is narrative is to state that yes, Black lives matter, but so do brown lives, red lives, yellow lives, white lives, football lives, whatever. Yeah. That all of those matter, because if you look in Canada, right? the most disenfranchised group in Canada isn't Afros, it's natives.
Yeah, I could see that.
Native Americans are more disenfranchised because they are actually considered as they're practically second-rate citizens in Canada, because some of them don't even have Canadian citizenship because they're off of the planet, off the reserves.
Wow.
They have citizenship in the reserves, right? Wow. So the moment that they get out the reserve, they're on foreign territory, so to speak, under a different jurisdiction.
Yeah.
This is why some of them end up with bad type of scenarios with the cops and all that stuff, because they're supposed to have their own police and all their own infrastructure, and unfortunately, it's not very good.
No,
right? Depending on where you live.
No, right? You're right. Though we need work, or we need more support.
They need to give these communities some sort of humanitarian aid to help them come up. It's what they need to do. But and then you also get that situation where that young native lady who also got killed by police due to the fact that she had mental issues. And that's another thing that we need to hurry up with the police, is reform them so that they can handle mental issues better.
Yeah,
and that's the problem.
You're right. Defunding the police does nothing good.
It does nothing good at all.
You need more money, actually.
Yeah,
more money, reform, more training.
And more training, put in social workers in there as well to add to the force, that people who are experts on psychology and things like that, so that they can do that. Because right now what happens is police, the way police work, the way they're trained, you take any person, like they did this experiment with someone who was a liberal, political science, a science major. They sent them off to train as a cop.
Okay.
And they failed miserably, because what happened is they had to be able to make a decision like that. Split second decision you got to be able to make as a cop.
Yeah, that's very,
because in all it takes is a matter of seconds for someone to lose their life.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's why cops don't take long periods of time to think things out when they're in a very high stakes situation.
They don't have time.
They don't have time to do that. When they hear shots fired, they're going to fire back.
Yeah,
it's human nature, because they got to preserve themselves. They got families of their own too,
and other people they're protecting. Yeah, no, for sure.
And other people they're protecting too. That's their job, to protect the community, not the person firing at them.
Exactly. It's one of the toughest jobs on the planet, and it's not fair that it's criticized that much. Honestly, it's fair that it's criticized, because every job needs to be criticized. But in the last couple of years, it's been unfairly painted, I gotta say. And
on top of that, here, like compared, and this is why I'm saying that.
And the cops that you know, and the cops that I know they're probably the most passionate people you know, and compassionate
folks.
People.
Like I've come
like everything else, good and bad, right?
Like I've come across some folks in a few bad apples that might have been slightly racist in the thing, but it's very, very subtly. None of them ever called me Packy. Never even called me like outright. But they're very, very. You could tell that when they start looking at you in a certain way, right? But the thing is, but not all of them. There's some that were super friendly.
For sure.
Shoot, I remember one time I got pulled over by one police officer. I didn't know why the heck I was pulled over. It says, "Sir, you forgot to get your plates renewed." Right? So I'm like, what? No, I got them. Wait a second. I'm still my plates are not expired yet. And he said, "Sir, look, it says January 2020." Yeah, January 20. Oh, it's February. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, sir. I know. It says, I know you sometimes forget, sir, but I suggest that you please. We're not going to give you a fine or anything like that.
That was nice.
He was.
That's how most interactions happen in Canada. I think they're very good, right, for the most part.
They're
not all, of course.
Well, no, but the thing is, a lot of the cases that do happen. I'll say this about a good majority of the cases where you end up with the things escalating is because the person who was dealing with the cops became violent themselves.
And I think, and to your point, I think that'll happen in any race.
Any race. Oh, it does.
Any situation.
Yeah,
to your point, you're right. Yeah. But there are also situations where
there are some that are slightly racist cops.
And
but
now that happens.
They're like, honestly, these days, they're fairly rare.
No, and we're lucky if that is the case here. I gotta say we're lucky, because I know we see things every day, right, in the States that it's a mess, and I know that the squeaky wheel gets the grease, of course. In the most extreme cases, get televised, right, on the news and go viral and all that stuff. But like you said, there are so many interactions with the police on a daily basis. Literally hundreds of thousands of interactions every day. So the majority of them are great. And I'll always support the police. I always support the police because, like you said, if there's something wrong with them, which there may be, we need more support, more funding, more education, right? Mm-hmm. So, no, I agree with that. And And
BLM down in the States, the problem with BLM down in the States is they've been hijacked by Antifa.
that's what it seems like.
And now they're being used as political pawns.
Yeah.
That's the problem with BLM down south. Which
And
is why I'm against I'm not against BLM here. I'm against BLM over there because of what they stand for. Not because of the whole race issue, but rather because of the whole anarchist issue.
Yes. That's what I'm saying. There's so much of that craziness going on is that it's completely taken away from any race issue that we try to address.
Yeah, they don't look at that. I mean, you had every single situation that you come across in life, you have to deal with it on a case-by-case basis.
Yes, exactly. You can't just take a broad brush. No.
Right. You can't take a broad brush and just swipe everything on there. Like there are certain things
like police brutality, for example, right?
Yeah.
That is an issue. It is a concern. So we should focus on police brutality, not say systemic racism.
Yeah, and the biggest problem here's the thing is what I liked about back in the 90s is that we were breaking stereotypes.
Yeah.
But taking a broad brush and just painting it across everyone is how you create stereotypes, and those stereotypes can lead to very incorrect judgments of various different people.
Here's a question for you, and maybe it's so simple that maybe I'm looking at it some simplistic way, but if there was truly systemic racism in the United States, which I don't believe there is, I think it's probably one of the most least systemic racist countries in the world. But if there was truly systemic racism, could a black man be president?
Well, yeah, but here's the thing that
I don't know.
There are people in power who do not
or are still racist. I believe there
are
racist.
There are racists. Like for instance, for instance, Joe Biden is a great example of a racist senator.
But does that equate to systemic racism? That's what I'm thinking. I don't think it is. I think individual racism is much different.
Let's be honest here, is that even in this, while there is certain people who have caused certain things to be racist, but the fact of the matter is that we are getting out of it. Now, one statement I didn't like about Doug Ford is comparing Canada to the United States and saying, oh, it's good we don't have systemic racism down here in the United States. There are people I'm not saying it's necessarily systemic, but there are people just like in the States, there are people up here who are racist. Yeah. The thing is to say that doesn't exist here and to say, oh, we're better than thou art type of scenario. Yeah. It's a very bad idea.
I think
I was very critical about that. I voted for Ford and I was critical about that.
I agree with that. But I wonder if it's the idea of the word systemic specifically.
That's the problem. Saying systemic. The thing is that we don't have...
I take that as widespread, infiltrated through every aspect of the government and society. That's systemic to me.
Then the thing is, here's the thing: the far left wing is trying to reinstate systemic racism, despite the fact that they're trying to say it, because they're trying to put in segregation. They're creating safe spaces. They're creating stereotypes. They're making it. They're demonizing white folks and making black folks feel like they're superior to white folks, or not superior, but more compassionate to white folks. There's one Afro celebrity who I think was a rapper or something like that, who basically stated that compassion is proportional to how much melanin that you have in your skin. This is ridiculous.
Really?
Yeah. As much. So the more melanin you have in your skin, the more compassionate you are. The white person doesn't have very much melanin in their skin, so they're not very compassionate at all. While the black person is, because they have a lot of melanin. It's bull crap.
Now, educate me. Isn't that racist?
Yes.
That's completely racist.
That is completely racist.
If I said, if you have less melanin, you're better, that's racist too.
That's racist too. That's essentially was the rhetoric back in the 20s and 30s.
They thought,
For decades, they just flipped it. It's still racist.
It's still racist, exactly.
But now what they do, they're telling, black people can't be racist. Why? Because they don't have systemic power. Bull crap.
Yeah, and racism isn't about power. People don't realize that.
No, it's not.
Racism is about personal opinion, essentially, right? You can be racist.
It's about, racism is based about your personal opinion about somebody else.
Based off
you believing that you're better than that person because of your ethnicity, skin color, or race, whatever the case is. That's what racism is.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. So and that's what leads to the discrimination.
Yeah.
Right. That's the discrimination. That's when you end up with racist discrimination.
Exactly. But then what they're trying to equate to us is that any minority equals racism. It's like just the fact that there's a minority, or you know what I mean? It's almost like that these days.
No, that's bull.
It's crazy. Racism has to be also proven too, I think.
No,
right?
Because if you could take you could
not
say,
proven by examples. You need
No, but here's the thing. If you go to, if you like, you could say, okay, black people cannot be racist because they don't have stemming power. Okay, take those black people, go back to Africa.
Yeah.
Go back to Africa where they actually have systemic power. Now what?
Yeah, well, exactly. The idea that you can't, racism is not attached to power.
No, it's not. It's not. As a matter of fact, there are a lot of racist things that some of the leaders in Africa, in South Africa, are doing. Same thing goes with people of Zimbabwe. They do the same thing.
Okay?
Okay?
Oh yeah, they're all over the
And
world.
I'm not saying, and that this is everybody. You have India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Pakistan, China, Japan, all of Asia, all of Europe, all of Africa, all of South America.
Yeah.
If there were people in Antarctica, it would be all of Antarctica too.
Of course, like I worked with a guy for a few months who was from China. He went to school here, graduated from college here, and I think he's still here actually. So I talked to him
too. Forgot that.
Yeah. So I talked to him. He's from China. I said, okay, so explain the minority situation in China. Explain to me what racism is. What is it like in China compared to in Canada? Because he knows what it's like. He's been here for a couple.
Of course.
He goes, in China, they're racist against everybody who's not Chinese. They don't give a shit you're minorities because minorities have no power. Minorities. I'm not saying we should be like China by no means, right? But it's interesting to see the perspective. It's like, is it because the majority is so big, China? You know what I mean? Maybe the minority.
Well, yeah.
Numbers, is that a big thing? Right.
And the thing is, it's easy when you're in a
and we don't want to model ourselves like them either. I know.
No, but here's the thing: is when you're in a homogenous society, it's more easier to be racist than when you're in a mixed society.
For sure, because
this applies to any country.
You're right, India, right? I'm sure it's the same.
India has their issues.
Sure, Japan, anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I remember even with little kids. I remember there was this journalist who went to some country in Africa, and they're going in a boat going by this village, and here are these little kids all smiling and jumping up and down and saying something in their language.
Yeah. And
he was saying, "Oh, how that's sweet," and then he's like, then it was sweet, and then is like, then until he found out what the kids were saying, right?
just
right?
Chastising him or something, right?
No, they were basically making fun of him.
Slander.
Right?
Oh, like
they were like
comments and
hey, white devil, you stink, right?
Laughing and smiling.
Laughing and smiling. They looked as cute as possible.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, white devil, you stink. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, okay.
Well, exactly. The audacity.
Somebody teach these kids a lesson or something.
Well, and it's funny, the arrogance to think that only white people own racism.
that is very arrogant. I mean, we're all human beings. We're all susceptible to the same ways of thinking. We're all susceptible to hubris. We're all susceptible to pride. We're all susceptible to a lot of different emotions and ways of thinking that are very common, but just aimed in different directions.
And we all grew up in a culture. That's the thing. We all have culture. We all have a certain amount of conditionings that we get to a certain point in our life where we expand and we realize, oh, it's not just like what mom and dad told me, but that basis is important, right? So you're right. It's like, it's so funny to think that like, as a white guy, I should feel extra guilty because my people are more racist. Really? Are they more racist? I don't know. They seem to be racist people seem to be all over the place. Exactly.
And the biggest problem is they tried to make it look like black folks, instead of saying black folks discriminating against other people of color is racist, they say it's colorism.
Oh my God. I don't know what that means.
They made up a bullcrap term to call it a bullcrap term.
Exactly.
Right? To call like, racism by something else and say it's not as bad. Yeah.
More terms, confuse the people, right? More terms, more pronouns, same idea, right? What's going on with this?
It was like back in the 90s when I remember there was Afro-American comedian making fun. Here's the thing about the 90s. People used to make fun of political correctness.
Yeah. Yes.
Bill Maher.
He had a TV show called Politically Incorrect.
Yes.
The whole show was about it. Yeah.
Bill Maher. Bill Maher was that. He had politically correct. He's a lefty.
Yeah.
Still does like, and he's the guy who agrees with Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, he's one of the only guys that's hard on the left and should be.
Yeah, he's hard on anybody.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
and that's how it should be. And the thing is with this one comedian from back in the 90s, he was like you got to be careful about what you say every day. Says right, you see some ice on the ground, you got to be careful what you say. Yo, it's not black ice, it's Afro-American ice.
Yeah. And we laughed at that.
That's how ridiculous it is. Yeah,
but
it's fun.
I bet you can see situations of today where that would come up. It's crazy because that's how far we've gone. Like that video.
Rewording. They call colored folks people of color. What are you learning your language from? Yoda?
Exactly.
Seriously, like what's the difference? There is no difference. You just renamed it.
I know.
Tomato, tomato, potato, potato. It's like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
A potato, a tomato is still a tomato, whether you call it tomato or tomato,
Yeah.
it's still the same thing.
It's funny because like you said, racism is all over the world, and even growing up, here's a microcosm of an example, right? My dad's from a certain part of Italy. There's even racism within Italy, right? The different parts of the country, the different dialects. This guy's on the coast, he's a fisherman. He's no good. This guy's a shoemaker, he's no good. You know what I mean? Like, so that it's so silly to think that it's only a white and everything else. Because what is white? There's no white.
Even in Sri Lanka, they had the castes and all that stuff,
yes,
right? And even in India. So my father was from was a fisherman's caste, and my mother was a farmer's caste, right? Yeah. And like no one uses the caste system in Sri Lanka anymore, but they still refer to it.
Over, yeah.
But history kids, and now it's a joke, right? Yeah. So they said. So my dad, he loves fishing, but he can never catch a fish. While my mother can catch a fish very easily, right? I think my sister and I inherited my mother's luck for fishing, right?
Oh, good.
But my father's friend is this. So someone is a Kara caste, is from fisherman's caste, right?
Okay.
Says this bloody Kara bugger has married a farmer caste woman. He can't even carry the woman is this. Farmer caste girl is catching a fish. This Karabaga can't even catch a fish. Right?
There you go.
It's my dad's buddies.
Yeah.
Right.
There you go.
So from back in the day. So no, that they used to call that.
I know. It's so funny, and like, but to stop identifying ourselves, it's like to say just black or to say just brown. I'm like, what? No, I want to know where are you Sri Lankan? You're not just brown. You know what I mean?
No,
like, there's more to you, right?
There's more to it. And I mean, I'm born and raised in Canada.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We're Canadian, exactly. And
and the thing is, if I go back to Sri Lanka, I gotta listen to my cousins and my family over there and my in-laws over there as to how to do things over there. Like I have a basic idea, but there are certain things that I don't pick up on.
Exactly. And
because I'm living here all my life.
Exactly. When you visit Sri Lanka, you're the Canadian visiting Sri Lanka.
You're
not the Sri Lankan coming home. You know what I mean? You're the Canadian.
When I talk, some of my relatives have to stare at my mouth so they can understand what I'm saying. Same way that there are some Italian friends back in the zoo who stare at my dad's mouth in order to understand what he's saying.
Yes, I can see that. Awesome, man. Well, listen, man, we've been going for a while. Thank you so much for your time, Des.
You're welcome anytime.
Any parting words you can leave with our listeners, our viewers? What do you think is going to happen here? Any prediction?
I just gotta say, for the election, as far as the down south is concerned, let it take its course. It's not the first time it's happened.
Yeah.
If Trump wins or Biden loses, then Trump wins and Biden loses. If Biden wins and Trump loses, then Biden wins and Trump loses.
Yeah.
It's just we got to be able to carry on with it. In terms of up here in Canada, we really have to be able to make sure that parents are taking care of their kids. Yeah. If you have kids, sit down and watch what they watch, because sometimes what they watch on television and all that may not be suitable for them. And if you get into an argument with someone and you're afraid of being offending them, just remember that famous words of Professor Jordan Peterson. In order to think, you have to risk being offensive.
Yes, that's amazing. I love that.
And also,
you have to critically think, right? It's important.
Think critically and objectively. You will have emotions that will try to cloud your judgment. Yeah. But try to think critically and try to think objectively. Try to seek a moderate route. Be honest. If you seek the moderate route, you can never go wrong. Moderates. If all the world was moderates, you'd have more wars, because everyone would be trying to figure out a way to try and solve the issue.
We live together
in peace, in a peaceful manner. Yeah,
absolutely.
That's the whole thing.
Well, that's perfect, brother. Thank you so much. We'll leave you there. I thank you for your time. I really appreciate this. Talk to you soon,
too.
Buddy.
Take care, Carlo.
All right. Let's say bye to everybody. And we'll say thanks for listening. Say thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.